Chapter 329. Ouyang Ting was blasted down, but other than Duan Qingshan, the others didn't mind Ouyang Ting's failure at all. Today, they stepped on the heavenly steel path, contending against Gun Yen. If they lost too miserably, how would their sects and clans feel? This was an opportunity, but also a path of destruction. They couldn't afford to lose. Everyone was incomparably cautious with every step they took. After every step they took, they would pause for a moment, stabilizing their state of mind. Qin Wentian had already stepped onto the fourth step. That earlier attack directly caused his internal organs to churn. Terror filled his heart. How difficult was this heavenly steel path? Can your body of flesh and blood withstand the force of your attacks? That voice reverberated in his mind, wanting to shake his heart. Qin Wentian stared at the resplendent astral light shining from the heavenly steel, his eyes gleaming with an unwavering light. This force seems to be my own strength. The stronger my strength is, the more terrifying the attacks against me would be. If I increase my own strength, the more powerful my attacks would be. Qin Wentian silently mused. On the heavenly steel path, nobody could conceal their strength. They would be suppressed to the limit by the heavenly steel path, and this limit would be used to attack themselves. His body transforming into a demonic beast. Qin Wentian's bloodline surged as he closed his eyes, ignoring the path ahead. In his heart, a candle flame lit up, revealing his true nature. His will wouldn't waver. Within his body, boundless strength could be felt. This was the explosive strength of his flesh and blood, and also the strength of his conviction. Boom! Qin Wentian's steps were resolute as he stepped onto the fifth step. A thunderous rumbling sound echoed out as the blood in his body churned frenziedly. However, his heart remained unwavering. Such an injury wouldn't obstruct his path of advancement. Taking another step, Qin Wentian stepped onto the sixth and seventh step. A violent surge of demonic energy from the supreme ancient immemorial realms frenziedly slammed into his body. A piercing sound rang out as Qin Wentian coughed out a mouthful of blood. However, his steps remained as steady as ever. Qin Wentian took the eighth step. As his step landed, a terrifying hurricane seemed to blow between the heavens and the earth, and a terrifying force rushed over. Qin Wentian moved his feet slightly, as if he was rooted to the ground. Boom, boom, two consecutive terrifying attacks caused Qin Wentian to take a step back, almost reaching the edge of the ground. His face was pale, and after he regained his balance, he spat out two mouthfuls of blood. His heart was in turmoil, and his body was in turmoil. On the eighth step of the heavenly steel, Qin Wentian is the fifth person to stand firm. No wonder he's a genius of the unmatched realm. The gazes of the crowd were all focused on the heavenly steel steps. On the sixth step, Xiao Xian from the Mystic Maiden Palace was blasted down. Wang Xiao was just about to attempt the seventh step when his countenance stiffened. He turned his head back only to see Xiao Xian collapsing at the bottom of the steps, her aura fluctuating wildly as she coughed out blood. Luckily, her life wasn't in danger. The eighth step is a threshold, let's see how many people can stabilize themselves. The gazes of the crowd turned sharp, only to see Situpa, Ouyangzheng, Zonglingfeng, Qin Wentian and the others all stopping at the eighth step, calming their auras. Evidently, they could sense that there was something different about the eighth step. 9 was the limit, but it was also a variable. Since there were already changes on the eighth step, who knew what would happen on the ninth step? They had to be extremely cautious. Those who reached the eighth step first stopped, and those who followed behind them followed suit. However, there were also quite a few who were blasted down from the eighth step. The disciple of the Mystic Maiden Palace, Lu Shi, was also extremely arrogant, but when she stepped onto the eighth step, she was ruthlessly blasted down. She didn't even have time to catch her breath before she fainted. Those who were usually pursuing her were all busy with their own matters, they naturally didn't have the time to pay attention to her. Only the female disciples of the mystic maiden palace dashed forward and brought her away. Wang Xiao howled in rage. His entire body was as sharp as a weapon, indestructible. His actions caused the eyes of many in the crowd to light up. This Wang Xiao from the war continent was truly a character. Being able to step onto the 8th step was already an extremely good result. Fatty Fan Li's face was flushed red. The blood in his body surged as golden flames ignited around him. Letting out a low roar, he also stabilized his footing on the 8th step, standing shoulder to shoulder with Qin Wentian. Ouyang Quansheng also stabilized his footing. His aura was as steady as a mountain, and although he was slower by a hair, he gave off a sense of steadiness. This didn't match his usual reputation of being a maniac. Chu Mang stared at the skies, his eyes filled with an unparalleled determination. He also stepped onto the 8th step. 9 is the limit, the 9th step. Be careful. Ouyang Quansheng spoke in a low voice. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian had already stepped out. The instant his foot landed, it was as though he was standing in the middle of a tempestuous storm. Rumble. A gigantic wave blasted over, causing his tiny boat to float. Rumble. An even more violent storm blasted over, causing the tiny boat to shatter. Qin Wentian held back his blood, but he didn't spit it out. Rumble. The third wave of attacks was even more violent and powerful, causing Qin Wentian to bend his waist. His body felt as though it was about to be flung through the air. However, Qin Wentian only managed to stand up straight again. This was only the 9th step. How could he be defeated? Stretching out his hands, he wiped away the traces of blood at the corner of his lips. Instantly, his sleeves were stained red with blood. His closed eyes finally opened as he stabilized his footing on the 9th step. 3-layered attacks, increase in strength, be careful. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice, warning Fan Lu and the rest. Fan Lu cast a glance in Xian Xian's direction, only to see Xian Xian looking at him as well. The two of them exchanged a smile. Xian Yan's eyes flickered with a strange light. This Fan Lu actually managed to ascend the 8th step as well. However, the 9th step wouldn't be so easy to overcome. I will ascend even higher than you. Fan Lu grinned at Xian Yan. Shifting his gaze over, he stepped towards the 9th step. The heavenly steel's light cascaded downwards, landing on Fan Li's slightly plump body. Instantly, Xian Yan only saw Fan Li's body shuddering violently, akin to a duckweed in the wind, on the verge of shattering at any moment. Fan Li's body arched as he coughed out blood unceasingly. However, he eventually stabilized his footing. Turning his head back, he glanced at Xian Yan, the smile on his face was as radiant as the sun. Xian Xian, I won't disappoint you. Fan Lu laughed. Xian Xian nodded her head heavily as she and Xian Yan stepped onto the 9th step. Ouyang Quansheng also stepped forward. Chu Mang's eyes were filled with determination as well. This heavenly steel won't be able to stop me. Chu Mang spoke in a low voice as he stepped onto the 9th step. Ignoring the torrential barrage of attacks, his back was ramrod straight, and his eyes were filled with determination. Standing there, he resembled a towering mountain. In the past, his elder brother Chu Wuwei was like a mountain to him. Now that he had descended, he wanted to become his elder brother's mountain. In that case, he had to ensure that Chu Wuwei wouldn't die of old age. He had to become stronger. Big bro Chu Mang, awesome. A smile broke out on Qin Wentian's face as he stared at Chu Mang. This simple-minded and clumsy number 1 prodigy of the royal capital was gradually revealing his most tenacious side. Although he didn't speak much, his heart was much more resolute than the majority of people. We will pass the 18th step together. Chu Mang grinned. This heavenly steel won't be able to obstruct our vision. Qin Wentian nodded his head. The spectators below felt their hearts trembling as they witnessed this scene. At the moment of ascending the heavenly steel steps, the various transcendent powers stood together. Qin Wentian, Ouyang Quangshen, Chu Mang and Fan Lu, the four of them stood together. But at this moment, only the four of them stood solidly on the ninth step. Just a few days ago, those who were still nameless in the Azure continent, were finally revealing their radiance. Arg! Situ Po's expression stiffened as he turned his head to look at Yu Bingying. I will complete the path that you have yet to complete. Situ Po slowly spoke as he stared ahead. His eyes were as resolute as ever as he took another step forward. He was the first to ascend the 10th step. When Situ Po stepped onto the 10th step, he was even more stable compared to when he was on the 9th step. His body didn't waver in the slightest, and this made everyone understand that after he passed the 9th step, the heavenly steel steps would undergo another transformation. Let me scout the path. Qin Wentian took the initiative and stepped onto the 10th step. The instant he stepped on it, he instantly sensed that there was no longer any terrifying energy here. Instead, there was a mysterious intent enveloping him. Can your lowly will withstand the will of the ancients? Another voice rang out in his mind. Qin Wentian gazed at the heavenly steel, only to see a silhouette of him appearing on the heavenly steel. It was as though an ancient will was imprinted on the heavenly steel, gushing into his mind. Qin Wentian felt a terrifying ancient will sweeping through his will, wanting to destroy it. Scram! Qin Wentian howled in rage in his heart as his mandate at the perfection boundary erupted forth. His will of mandates at the mandate boundary transformed into an intense intent, sweeping away the ancient will as it shot towards the heavenly steel in the air. Boom! Qin Wentian's mind violently shuddered. It was as though his mandate of force was being countered by the mandate of force, wanting to destroy his mandate of force. Qin Wentian's mandate collided with the ancient will of the steel. Although he stood there calmly, he understood that the current him was in an even more dangerous situation than before. If he was not careful, his mandate would shatter, and his path of cultivation would collapse. His mandate of dream form and mandate of demonification frenziedly erupted forth. However, a moment later, three silhouettes of Qin Wentian appeared on the three heavenly steels, staring down at him with a disdainful gaze. Their gazes were ice cold, and the will of his mandate transformed into an ancient will, wanting to suppress him. Using my mandate to suppress me? How can I allow you to do as you wish? Qin Wentian mumbled, his words causing the hearts of Fan Lu and the rest to tremble. After which, they saw Qin Wentian continuing forward, passing the 10th step and stepping onto the 11th step. This time around, Qin Wentian no longer hesitated. He continued forward, using his strongest mandate to contend against the ancient will of the heavenly steel. Boom, 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 every step he took seemed calm, yet it caused the hearts of the spectators to palpitate. The gazes of the spectators stared at Qin Wentian's back, filled with determination and determination. 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. In the blink of an eye, Qin Wentian had already stepped onto the 15th step of the heavenly steel. There were only 3 more steps left, and that would be the record for the past 10 years. However, the spectators also understood that the next 3 steps would be the most terrifying. Not only could one injure their opponent, they could even sever their path of cultivation, and destroy their life force. Chapter 330. On the 15th step, Qin Wentian halted his steps. The hearts of the spectators involuntarily trembled as they stared at his back. Would Qin Wentian's talent be able to surpass those who had stepped onto the heavenly steel steps in the past 10 years? Would he be able to stand on par with the record? Situ Po's 3 mandates were incomparably terrifying. How could he retreat? Similarly, he continued advancing, his conviction incomparably firm. He, Situ Po, couldn't afford to lose, and it was impossible for him to lose. In the blink of an eye, Situ Po and Qin Wentian were both on the 15th step. Ouyang Zheng, Zhang Lingfen, and the other rankers on the Heavenly Fate rankings, how could they be weaker than juniors? They were the first to step onto the Heavenly Fate rankings, and although the Heavenly Steel steps were open due to the battle between Situ Pe and Qin Wentian, since they were already here, how could they lose? They were also rankers on the Heavenly Fate rankings. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, they similarly couldn't afford to lose. This battle was a battle of talent, a battle of conviction. All of them wanted to break the record, or even surpass the 18th step. This would be extremely beneficial to their future paths. In the direction of the Mystic Maiden Palace, Li Shiyu was also forced down the Heavenly Steel steps. Only the two princesses, Xian Yan and Xian Xian, were still persisting. Duan Qingshan was also persisting. Ouyang Quansheng, Chu Mang, and Fan Lu were still there. There was one more person who surprised the crowd. Wang Xiao had also reached the 13th step, and his will was extremely powerful, contending against the ancient will. These people are all extremely powerful. Other than the rankers on the Heavenly Fate rankings, there are still quite a few of them. However, both Qin Wentian and Situ Pe have stopped. I'm sure that the 15th step will be extremely difficult. Qin Wentian's eyes were tightly shut. At this moment, the ancient will from the Heavenly Steel steps grew even more intense, as a terrifying demonic energy gushed forth, wanting to tear him apart. This wasn't an illusion, but a real existence. At the same time, there was also a fearsome dream-type energy, wanting to force him into a deep slumber. For the first time, Qin Wentian felt an attack from his own mandate. His mandate transformed into a terrifying ancient will, wanting to erase his will. At this moment, Qin Wentian seemed to be in an independent space. That space was formed by his martial arts will. He sat cross-legged, and above him, there were three figures of his evil will. At this moment, his will was fighting against three of him. Ancient will like power, ancient will like dream, ancient will like demon. In the consciousness space, Qin Wentian saw three figures blocking his way, as if they were insurmountable. If you take one more step forward, I will sever your will, and destroy your life. The demonic Gu Nian spoke evilly, exuding a terrifying demonic aura, as though he was threatening Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian could also sense it. With every step he took, the ancient will grew stronger and stronger. If he took another step forward, this ancient will would definitely reach an extreme state. Qin Wentian's will closed his eyes. Around him, there were three different types of mandates. He didn't seem to care about the words of the ancient will, and continued sitting cross-legged. After a long time, his eyes abruptly opened. His will was incomparably terrifying, wanting to break through the clouds. A thunderous boom rang out as a raging wind kicked up. Qin Wentian's body didn't waver in the slightest. In that space, the ancient will of force grew even stronger. It bore down on Qin Wentian's will, transforming into an ancient mountain, a piece of the heavens, suppressing Qin Wentian's will. Boom! Qin Wentian's will trembled madly, that dreamlike ancient will gushed over. At this moment, Qin Wentian actually felt the urge to sleep. The demonic Gu Nian attacked once more. Qin Wentian's mandates were trembling, yet he still opened his eyes and opened his mouth, howling with rage. His strength broke through the heavens and earth as he took another step forward. With a thunderous boom, his will was unyielding. He stepped onto the 16th level, his body as steady as a mountain, not moving an inch. He stabilized himself. The hearts of the spectators trembled. Qin Wentian had actually also stepped onto the 16th level. Before him, Ouyang Zheng, Zhang Lengfeng and Situ Pe had all stepped onto the 16th level. Next, your path has already reached its end. Situ Pe faintly spoke, he could actually still speak. Everyone knew that his words were directed at Qin Wentian. As the sound of his voice faded, Situ Pe had already stepped onto the 17th level. The hearts of the spectators trembled, Situ Pe had already stepped onto the 17th level. There was only one more level before he would be able to catch up to the ancient record. On this level, Situ Po's silhouette halted, as though he was frozen in place. I'm afraid that Situ Po would forcefully interfere in the ranking battle at the end of the year. Based on his strength, if he could break through to the 9th level of Yuanfu, he would have a high chance of becoming one of the top 10 rankers. Situ Po was indeed the most demonic genius the Sword Extinction sect had seen in recent years. He had seized the authority to cultivate all 36 mountains in the unmatched realm, causing a temporary gap in the Yuanfu level of the Sword Extinction sect. With no Yuanfu heaven chosen, Situ Po would definitely be able to break through. After which, Ouyang also stepped onto the 17th level. Zhang Lengfen wasn't willing to be outdone, he unleashed his will of mandates to the extreme. Since they were able to become heaven's chosen, there was no need to doubt the strength of their wills and talent. Qin Wentian's silhouette also moved, stepping onto the 17th level. The instant he stepped onto the 17th level, his body froze in place, as though he was frozen in place. It was as though even his breathing had stopped. What's going on? The countenances of the spectators froze. None of the previous contenders were in the same state as Qin Wentian. It was as though they were all dead. 2 hours passed, 4 hours passed, yet Qin Wentian was still in the same position. A day later, Wang Xiao was also blasted down the heavenly steel steps. Duan Qingshan, who was attempting the 18th level, was also blasted down as though he had been struck by lightning. Qin Wentian was still standing there, unmoving. The number of contenders on the heavenly steel steps grew fewer and fewer. Those dazzling geniuses were all blasted down, and only the most dazzling contenders remained. Not only that, they had also broken the record of the past 10 years. In the past 10 years, the heavenly steel steps had been opened 3 times, and the 18th level was the highest level. However, there wasn't just one contender who had stepped onto the 18th level. They were all stuck there, unable to advance any further. The 18th level, when split into 2, was the number of double nines, the second extreme number of nines. I'm going down. Xian Xian had a bitter expression on her face. She felt that she couldn't hold on any longer. The 17th level was her limit, and if she continued to advance, there would only be 2 possibilities. Either she would break through her limits, or she would be heavily injured. Not only that, she felt that the latter was more likely. To Xian Xian, her obsession wasn't as strong as the others. After all, she was still a girl, and she was still very young. After speaking, Xian Xian pushed out with both her palms, as a powerful rebounding force blasted her back. When her feet landed on the ground, her body unceasingly retreated, yet she wasn't injured. This was because she had voluntarily come down, and not because she was being blasted down. The little princess of the Mystic Maiden Palace, Xian Xian, reaching the 17th level is already not bad. Fan Lu is still persisting on the 17th level. There's also Qin Wentian, Chu Mang and Ouyang Guangsheng. They're all stuck there, unable to advance any further. Xian Yan has already reached the 18th level. Her mandates are all at the perfection boundary, incomparably powerful. The gazes of the crowd shifted onto Xian Yan's silhouette, as well as onto Qin Wentian. Most probably, Qin Wentian's friend had already reached his limit, and was about to lose to Xian Yan. After all, Xian Yan was a heaven's chosen of the Azure continent, ranked number 17 on the Heavenly Fate rankings. Break! An earth-shattering roar thundered out, causing the crowd to be startled. They inclined their heads, only to see Chu Mang standing beside Fan Lu. His long hair fluttered in the wind as he opened his eyes. Within his eyes, an arrow could be seen piercing through the heavenly steel, a gigantic axe cleaving apart the heavens and earth. Stepping forward, a fearsome mandate erupted forth from him. With a resolute heart, there was nothing it couldn't break. Chu Mang's goal had always been simple. Only by becoming stronger and stronger would he be able to support his elder brother's cultivation, allowing his elder brother to not grow old. The terrifying ancient will reverberated in Chu Mang's sea of consciousness. His eyes were incomparably red as he stood there, throwing his head back and howling to the heavens. As long as his will remained, so what of the heavenly steel? Who could destroy him? Bzzz. Numerous terrifying mandates erupted forth from his body, transforming into beams of resplendent light. That was the aura of a perfection boundary. He wanted to use the perfection boundary of a single law attribute to break apart the suppression of the ancient will. This ancient will would only grow stronger when facing the strong. Only by holding on to the strongest will, would one not be influenced by the ancient will. If he failed, the consequences would be extremely tragic. Given Chu Mang's craziness, if he didn't break through, he would definitely be killed by the ancient will. Stabilized, Chu Mang tied the record. I won't lose. At this moment, a voice echoed out from Fan Li's mouth. When he opened his eyes, his gaze was exceptionally clear. It was as though Xian Xian's pure countenance could be seen on the heavenly steel. Although Fan Lu was a jovial person, he knew that despite his unattractive appearance, Xian Xian still chose him. Because of this, he was mocked and ridiculed by others. Even Xian Xian was mocked and ridiculed as well. He would always smile as though he didn't care, but in his heart, he truly cared. For the sake of fighting for his pride, he couldn't allow Xian Xian to suffer the disdainful looks of others. He didn't want Xian Xian to be the target of criticism in the Mystic Maiden Palace. He wanted to prove to everyone that Xian Xian hadn't chosen him wrongly. He was a genius, Fan Lu. Stepping out, Fan Li's body glowed with golden flames as a terrifying heat permeated the air. He stepped onto the 18th step. Bzzz. The raging flames emanated a terrifying aura, incinerating his body. Resplendent beams of golden light erupted from his eyes as his powerful will pierced through the heavenly steel. The three wills of his mandate were being refined in the midst of the raging flames. He was Fan Lu, Fatty Fan Lu, Genius Fan Lu. Immersed in the flames, he stood on the 18th step. Huh, this is awesome. Ouyang Guangsheng howled in rage. Both Fan Lu and Chu Mang had done it, how could he fall behind? Stepping out, he too, dashed up the stairs. If he failed, so what if he was heavily injured? Even if he didn't break through, how could he be worthy of being called Ouyang Guangsheng? Ouyang Guangsheng stepped onto the 18th step, tying the record. Awesome! The hearts of the spectators sighed in admiration. Currently, there weren't many people remaining on the heavenly steel steps. Only Ouyang Zheng, Zonglengfen, Xian Yan and Yu Bufan remained. These four were ranked within the top 36 of the Heavenly Fate rankings, as well as Situ Pe, Fan Lu, Chu Mang, Ouyang Guangsheng and Qin Wentian. Of the 9 remaining, 8 were on the 18th step. Only Qin Wentian remained on the 17th step. Awesome, there's no need to mention Ouyang Zheng and the other 3. Situ Pe and Qin Wentian are here to compete, but Chu Mang, Fan Lu, Ouyang Guangsheng and the others who came together with Qin Wentian are all so terrifying. After today's battle, I'm afraid there will be many major powers willing to recruit them. However, victory and defeat had yet to be determined. Situ Pe vs Qin Wentian, Xian Yan vs Fan Lu, Ouyang Zheng vs Zonglengfen. All of them held an incomparably strong conviction in their hearts. Would they be able to continue advancing? Next, other than Qin Wentian, the others only needed a single step to surpass the record of the past 10 years. Who would be able to break it? Qin Wentian, who was still on the 17th step, would he still have a chance to defeat Situ Pe? Chapter 331. The scene at the top of the heavenly steel steps caused the spectators to feel an intense sense of shock. 8 people stood on the 18th step while a single person stood on the 17th step. Such a magnificent scene had never been seen before in the past 10 years. It's rumored that the middle 9 steps test one's mandate. If one's mandate isn't strong enough, without the determination to break through everything, there's no way they would be able to ascend. The mandates of these people were not only strong and stable, they were also incomparably resilient. The spectators mused. But at this moment, all of them halted their steps. 18, the number of double nines, was a hurdle. Taking another step forward was too difficult. If not, in the past 10 years, the geniuses wouldn't have all stopped at this point. This place was the same as the record of the past 10 years. Time slowly flowed by, the 9 of them maintained the same posture, as though they had forgotten the passage of time. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. They were still standing there, their mandates growing stronger and stronger. The 18th step didn't mean stability. If one wanted to stand firm on the 18th step, their mandates had to either be firm or break through. If not, they would still be blasted off the 18th step. On the 18th step, they were overcoming themselves. Their mandates grew stronger and stronger. As long as they didn't lose, they would grow stronger and stronger. Situpa has already reached the perfection boundary in all 3 of his mandates. He's only at the 8th level of Yuanfu and has yet to step into the 9th level. As long as he steps into the 9th level of Yuanfu, he would definitely be ranked within the top 36 of the Heavenly Fate rankings. The spectators sighed in their hearts. Situpa was someone who was destined to become a heaven's chosen. Now that he encountered the heavenly steel steps, how could he not grab hold of this opportunity? This appearance of the heavenly steel steps was an extremely good opportunity for demon-level geniuses. But to the mediocre, it was a nightmare. Just like Ouyang Ting, the heavenly steel steps allowed her to see what level she was at. Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lengfeng are about to attempt it. At this moment, the spectators only saw Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lengfeng advancing towards the final 9 steps. The 2 of them were ranked 10th and 12th on the Heavenly Fate rankings respectively. Hence, right from the start, they already had the intention to compete against each other. What was waiting for them on the final 9 steps of the Heavenly Steel steps? Would Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lengfeng be able to surpass their limits? Everyone was looking at him. Pfft. Fresh blood splattered through the air. Almost at the same instant, Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lengfeng were flung through the air, directly falling from the 18th step, flying back to where they came from. A few silhouettes soared through the air, catching the 2 of them. These were the experts from the Ouyang aristocrat clan and multidirectional Thunderwind sect. Qin Wentian sighed in his heart. Ultimately, he still failed to break the record. However, tying the record also proved their talent. After all, in the past 10 years, those who could reach the 18th level were all extremely outstanding people. When Xian Yan and Yu Bufan saw this scene, they knew that they were about to face the strongest test. Ancient dream will, you can't stop me. At this moment, a soft sigh rang out. After that, the crowd saw Qin Wentian, who was on the 17th step, moving. His foot landed on the 18th step, and abruptly, his martial will trembled. The ancient will was like force, dreamlike, demon-like, all of them frenziedly attacked. However, Qin Wentian's will of mandate remained unextinguished. No matter how the tempest of attacks rained down on him, no matter how much stronger his will of mandate was, he was unyielding, and undying. His steps were as steady as a mountain, standing on the 18th step, becoming the 9th person to reach the 18th step. Today, 9 people had reached the 18th step. But at this moment, the 2 strongest among them, Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lengfeng, had both failed. Only 7 people remained, and all of them were still on the 18th step. Xian Yan finally steeled her heart and continued to rush upwards. With an incomparably intense will, she stepped onto the 19th step. However, an instant later, she let out a scream of agony as she was flung through the air like a kite with a broken string. Xian Yan's attempt to reach the 19th step was announced as a failure. Now, only 6 people remained. After that, Yu Bufan also attempted to reach the 19th step, but similarly, he failed. Only 5 people remained. The four heavens chosen ranked within the top 36 of the heavenly fate rankings had all failed to reach the 19th step. Such a scene was extremely tragic. Situ Pe, Qin Wentian, Ouyang Guangsheng, Chu Mang and Fan Lu. Did these five still have any hope? The distance of a single step is akin to a chasm. I, Situ Pe, will not lose, I cannot lose. Situ Pe inclined his head, staring at the heavenly steel. His silhouette seemed to be there. How could he, Situ Pe, be defeated by Qin Wentian? He could leave the unmatched realm, but he couldn't allow himself to be expelled. He couldn't afford to lose so much face. Among the four heavens chosen of the Azure continent, none of them were from the Sword Extinction sect. All of them had failed. He, Situ Pe, couldn't be defeated, not only for himself, but also for the Sword Extinction sect. His heart had never been this resolute before. He stepped out, and in that instant, Situ Pe's entire body was drenched in cold sweat. It was as though he had just experienced a life-and-death battle. With a howl of rage, boundless energy erupted forth, protecting his body from destruction. He was Situ Pe, he had to win. Boom! Another step, Situ Pe stood on the 19th step as a terrifying shockwave swept across the entire staircase. That silhouette of his back caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. That was Situ Pe of the Sword Extinction sect. He stood on the 19th step, accomplishing what Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lengfeng had failed to do. He had broken the record of the past 10 years. Today, he would become the most dazzling character. It was as though the heavenly steel steps had been opened for him. I won. A smile could be seen on Yu Bingying's face. This was her man, Situ Pe. Even though she was injured and her body was still trembling, she didn't care. Situ Pe had become the most dazzling character. She glanced at those from the Azure Emperor Palace, as well as those from the Sword Extinction sect. They should all be proud of Situ Pe. She then glanced at the silhouette of Qin Wentian. His death date would soon arrive. Seems like an extremely powerful character will appear on the heavenly fate rankings. Ouyang Zheng inclined his head, staring at Situ Pe as he spoke in a low voice. Xian Yan nodded her head lightly. Situ Pe had accomplished what she had failed to do. If I win, don't interfere with me and Xian Xian anymore. At this moment, Fan Li's voice abruptly drifted over, causing Xian Yan's eyes to narrow. After which, she saw Fan Li's chubby frame trembling as he advanced towards the 19th step. Xian Yan, I will defeat you for sure. With a howl of rage, both of Fan Li's feet landed on the 19th step. At this moment it was as though he didn't fear death. That chubby frame of his, in the eyes of the spectators, grew taller and taller. Nobody would have thought that fatty Fan Lu would actually ascend to the 19th step. Fan Lu. Xian Xian's beautiful eyes were filled with hot tears as she stared at his back. Poochie sounds rang out as fresh blood splattered from Fan Li's body. Yet, he still stood there, not moving an inch. Xian Yan, did I win? Fan Li's voice drifted over. Xian Yan stared at his bleeding body as her heart and soul trembled. She opened her mouth, yet she didn't know what to say. Voila! Fresh blood gushed forth. Fan Li's arms were on the verge of breaking apart. Senior sister. Xian Xian stared at Xian Yan as tears flowed unceasingly down her cheeks. Xian Yan nodded her head lightly as she stared at the skies. I've lost. Pang. As the sound of her voice faded, Fan Li's body flew down from the skies. Xian Xian dashed out, grabbing hold of Fan Lu as she landed on the ground. Fan Lu smiled at her. Xian Xian, you didn't misjudge this genius, right? Emichim, I didn't misjudge. 2 streams of tears flowed down Fan Li's cheeks. Fan Lu closed his eyes, and with a smile on his face, he fainted. Fan Lu became the second person to break the record. Although he only paused for a short moment, he still stood on the 19th step, breaking the record of the past 10 years. Chu Mang also made his attempt, howling in rage. However, he failed. Although he was defeated, he had no regrets. He had done his best. Ouyang Guangsheng also made his attempt. At the instant he stepped onto the 19th step, he cursed, "Fuck, this daddy doesn't want to play anymore." As the sound of his voice faded, he was also jolted down from the impact. However, he was able to defend himself and wasn't seriously injured. He cursed, "Is this heavenly steel something humans can play with?" Too ruthless, he felt as though he was on the verge of death earlier. That pitiful look on Fan Li's face was definitely not an illusion. On the heavenly steel steps, only 2 people remained. Situ Pa on the 19th step, and Qin Wentian on the 18th step. This heavenly steel steps had originally been opened for them. Who knew if it was a coincidence, but in the end, only the 2 of them remained. However, could Qin Wentian really fight against Situ Pa? That single step was akin to a chasm. How many people had fallen at that step? Ouyang Zheng, Zhang Lingfen, Xian Yan, Yu Bufan, none of them dared to attempt it. Only Situ Pa succeeded. As for Fan Lu, he could be considered to have succeeded by half a step. He fought for the sake of love, for the sake of not bringing shame to Xian Xian. He told Xian Yan, the Mystic Maiden Palace, and the people of the Azure Continent that he, Fan Lu, wasn't inferior to any of the other geniuses. After Situ Pa steadied himself, he turned his head and cast a glance at Qin Wentian. Calmly, he stated, "The distance of a single step is akin to a chasm. But the chasm between you and me is definitely not just a single step." As the sound of his voice faded, Situ Pa once again stepped onto the 20th step. Who? The crowd drew in a deep breath, their hearts pounding. Situ Pa was still advancing. As for Qin Wentian, his eyes were closed, as though he was still struggling on the 18th step. Was there really a need for this battle? 3 days passed, Qin Wentian was still the same. 10 days passed, Qin Wentian was still the same. 1 month passed, Qin Wentian was still the same. Situ Pa stepped onto the 21st step, shaking off Qin Wentian by 3 steps, 3 insurmountable chasms. However, they discovered that Qin Wentian, who was still standing there with his eyes closed, was gradually growing stronger. Only when his will reached the perfection boundary would he be able to contend against the ancient will of the heavenly steel. At that time, he would be in his strongest state, advancing forward. Chapter 332. Time flowed by as many people departed. Ouyang Zheng, Zhang Lingfeng and the rest all went into closed-door seclusion. Many from the major powers also departed as well. On the heavenly steel steps, only 2 people remained, Situ Pa and Qin Wentian. No matter how high Situ Pa's rank was, the rest of the major powers would know that there was no need for them to guard the heavenly steel steps every day. For example, those from the Sword Extinction Sect and the Azure Emperor Palace. Other than them, Ouyang Guangsheng, Chu Mang, Fan Lu and the rest were also present. 2 months had already passed and the injuries of those who were injured had long since healed. However, Qin Wentian was still standing there, causing Fan Lu and the rest to feel extremely helpless. Currently, the doubts and suspicions regarding Qin Wentian continued unabated. Could it be that he was planning to continue wasting time here? Until Situ Pa left. Currently, Situ Pa had already reached the 23rd step, and it seemed as though he was cultivating with his eyes closed. Not many people believed that Qin Wentian would be able to win. The outcome of this battle was already decided. How difficult would it be to ascend from the 18th step to the 23rd step? How long is Qin Wentian going to cultivate for? Xian Xian spoke in a low voice beside Fan Lu. She was also accompanying Fan Lu. The people from the Mystic Maiden Palace, because of Fan Li's outstanding performance, actually didn't intentionally make things difficult for him and Xian Xian. Although this didn't mean that they had agreed to the relationship between them, at the very least, it proved that Fan Lu had taken a step forward, causing the mystic maiden palace to not immediately separate them. Could it be that he is intentionally waiting until the end of the year? At that time, Situ-po would definitely head to Ginkgo. That way, even if Qin Wentian was defeated, he would still be able to live. Not far away, Yu Bingying coldly spoke. She had always been paying attention to Situ-po. Similarly, she wanted to see the ending. She wanted to see Qin Wentian's defeat. Boom! At this moment, atop the heavenly steel steps, a tyrannical aura gushed forth from Situ-po. His back was ramrod straight as he stared at the heavenly steel steps. His cultivation base, 9th level of Yuanfu, his 3 mandates had all reached the perfection boundary. From today onwards, he truly had the qualifications to contend for the top few rankings of the heavenly fate rankings. I broke through. Yu Bingying's beautiful eyes shone with a brilliant light as she smiled. From today onwards, Situ-po was no longer a quasi-heavens chosen, but a true heavens chosen. In fact, he might even be the strongest heavens chosen in the current generation of the Sword Extinction sect. Xian Yan and Li Shiyu were also present. When they saw Situ-po breaking through, they couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Situ-po was truly amazing. Speaking of which, I really have to thank you. If it wasn't for you, there wouldn't be any heavenly steel steps, and I wouldn't have been able to reach the perfection boundary in such a short period of time. Initially, I thought I would only be able to do so before heading to Ginkgo. But now, I have more time to prepare. Situ-po calmly stated, his words causing the crowd to sigh. The battle between Qin Wentian and Situ-po had caused the unmatched old man to borrow the heavenly steel. Who would have thought that the unmatched old man would become Situ-po's benefactor? Situ-po indeed has to thank Qin Wentian. Li Shiyu calmly stated. Xian Yan lightly nodded her head, the current Situ-po was already strong enough to threaten her. When Qin Wentian was at the 8th level of Yuanfu, his combat prowess was already extremely terrifying. At this moment, Situ-po continued, however, although I have to thank you, at the end of the heavenly steel steps, I will still take your life. After speaking, Situ-po stepped forth once more, as an incomparably terrifying will appeared in his heart. Situ-po ascended the 24th step, reaching a terrifying height. The heavenly steel steps are simply too difficult. Just this step alone would allow me to look down on countless heroes. Situ-po sighed deeply as he sat down cross-legged on the heavenly steel steps. The 24th step of the heavenly steel steps. The smile on Yu Bingying's face grew even more intense. Other than Situ-po, who else would be able to accomplish this? As the sound of her voice faded, from afar, a white-robed silhouette could be seen walking over. This white-robed silhouette was like a transcendent being, exuding an aura of extreme coldness. She slowly walked up the heavenly steel steps. 1 step, 9 steps. After 9 steps, she coughed out a mouthful of blood, but the blood didn't even stain her white robes. It's her. Yu Bingying's beautiful eyes froze, as did Li Shiyu and the others. Yunmingyi, clad in robes as white as snow, exuded an icy aura. She was as elegant as a snow lotus on an icy mountain, unaffected by the mundane world. Yet today, she also appeared here, stepping onto the heavenly steel steps. In the blink of an eye, she had already reached the 18th step, standing shoulder to shoulder with Qin Wentian. How powerful! When the spectators saw this, they couldn't help but fall into a daze. Yunmingyi also had the authority to cultivate in all 36 halls, yet she managed to ascend the 18th step in such a short amount of time. How resolute was her heart! How firm was her will of mandate! Not only that, she didn't halt her steps, she continued advancing, ascending the 19th step, the 20th step. Very swiftly, she arrived at the 24th step, standing shoulder to shoulder with Situ-po. Situ-po's eyes narrowed, his heart pounding as he stared at Yunmingyi in shock. How could this be? Not long ago, he was still boasting about how difficult the heavenly steel steps were. Just this step alone would allow him to look down on countless heroes. Yunmengyi didn't halt her steps, she continued ascending the 25th step, the 26th step. Finally, she halted, standing there like a fairy from the mortal world, unexcelled in this world. For Situpa to reach this step, how much effort had he expended? How many heroes had he defeated? However, Yunmengyi, whose countenance was as cold as ice, had surpassed him in less than an hour. Such a scene caused the spectators to be dumbfounded. Situpa wasn't willing to accept this, he still wanted to compete. With an incomparably intense will in his heart, he continued ascending the 25th step, only a single step away from Yunmengyi. But this single step caused him to hesitate. At this moment, Qin Wentian finally moved. Qin Wentian moved, he's preparing to ascend the 19th step. The gazes of the spectators instantly landed on Qin Wentian. The demonic qi radiating from him was even stronger than before, as though his life was that of a demon. Stepping out, Qin Wentian landed on the 19th step. 9 beams of light descended from the heavenly steel, landing on Qin Wentian's body. There was no way to evade these 9 beams of light. Puchi. A light sound rang out as the 9 beams of light slashed downwards. Qin Wentian's body twitched. He finally understood why so many geniuses failed at this step, unable to ascend. Flesh and blood, mortal thoughts, and fragile lives, how could they not fear death? Just think about it, who would have such courage and such persistence? An intense pain coursed through his entire body. Qin Wentian's heart turned cold, and in an instant, fresh blood dripped from a certain location on his chest. Over there, a bloody wound could be seen. He finally understood what Fan Lu had experienced, what he had endured. Was this real, or was it fake? If it was real, why didn't he die? If it was fake, where did the blood come from? Where did the intense pain come from? Truth and fake, it all depended on a single thought. Qin Wentian took another step forwards, moving towards the 20th step. Without a doubt, Qin Wentian had succeeded. He became the 3rd person after Situpa, Yunmengyi, and Fan Lu to be able to stand stably on the 19th step. On the 20th step, a beam of light pierced through Qin Wentian's chest, penetrating through his heart. If one didn't experience this, they wouldn't be able to understand. At this moment, his will determined his life and death. If he retreated a single step, he would die. Qin Wentian laughed as he continued walking forwards. He already understood what kind of terrifying will he was facing now. If his heart wasn't resolute enough, he would die. If his will wavered, he would die. Every step he took was akin to coming into contact with the Grim Reaper. Earlier, if his will wavered in the slightest, that sharp blade that pierced through his heart would become a reality. He would die for real, just like those who were injured when they tried to ascend the 19th step. No wonder the other geniuses retreated. No wonder Ouyang Guangsheng cursed out loud. No wonder Fan Lu was so heavily injured for the sake of that will. How can this be? He actually succeeded. The spectators below were all stunned. They saw Qin Wentian ascending step by step without pause. He reached the 21st step, the 22nd, the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th. He was the same as Yunmengyi, ascending in a single breath. At this moment, he was on the same level as Situpa. Who said he had been defeated? Consecutively being surpassed by Yunmengyi and caught up to by Qin Wentian, the smile on Situpa's face vanished. He no longer had the confidence he had earlier. Astonishment, shock. How could this be? Why was their conviction so strong? Why were their wills so resolute? You've lost. Qin Wentian calmly stated. Situpa's countenance changed as he coldly stated, even if you reached this step, what qualifications do you have to say that I've lost? Your will has already wavered. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, he stepped forwards, ascending the 26th step. In that instant, he was on the same level as Yunmengyi, overtaking Situpa. Powerful. Fan Lu exclaimed in a low voice. Such a counterattack was truly exhilarating. On the heavenly steel steps, Situ Pe isn't the only one. Right now, he's the last one. Fan Lu stared at Yu Bingying, as though he wanted to refute her earlier words. There were 24 steps on the heavenly steel steps, other than Situ Pe, who else could achieve it? If you can do it, how can I fail? Situ Pe spoke. After which, he walked up the stairs as well. The 26th level was filled with indescribable pain. His will was being severed bit by bit, and his obsession was being stripped away bit by bit. However, he still stood there. Arg? In a deep breath, Situ Pe's body trembled uncontrollably. He stood on the 26th step of the heavenly steel steps. He had accomplished it. The three of them were evenly matched on the 26th step of the heavenly steel path. The last floor. The spectators below felt their hearts pounding violently. They had just witnessed a historical moment. Luckily, they hadn't left yet. The three of them were only a single step away from the highest point of the heavenly steel steps. However, who would dare to take this step? Yunmengyi was the first to step out. In an instant, the three heavenly steel steps and the boundless ancient will cascaded downwards, landing on her body. In an instant, the spectators witnessed a horrifying scene. Yunmengyi's body was being stripped away bit by bit, as countless beams of light rained down on her, wanting to destroy her body, wanting to turn her into ashes. Puchi. Blood splattered as Yunmengyi's body collapsed onto the ground. Her fresh blood dyed her white robes red as she rolled down the steps, turning her entire person into a blood-soaked figure. Yunmengyi could be said to be the most dazzling person ever since the opening of the heavenly steel steps. She used the shortest amount of time and was only a single step away from the final step. However, she was also the one in the most miserable state. Rolling down the steps unceasingly, her white robes were dyed red with blood, causing the spectators to be unable to bear to look at her. Was she dead or alive? Situ Pe's heart trembled. Yunmengyi's pitiful state caused his conviction to waver once again. On the 26th step, he was already on the verge of collapsing. But Yunmengyi's condition was much better than his when she stepped onto the 26th step. But now, what would happen if he took another step? No matter how strong his conviction was, it would still waver in the face of death. You are afraid. Qin Wentian calmly stated. Situ Pe's countenance froze. He stared at Qin Wentian beside him as he stated, this final step, nobody can achieve it. At the very least, I want to give it a try. Qin Wentian had never been so calm before. He wanted to become one of the top 3 rankers in the Heavenly Fate rankings. He wanted to head to the Pill Emperor Hall. How many thorns would there be in his future? At the very least, he couldn't afford to lose today. How could he lose? Do you know who you are? A voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind as a smile appeared on his face. Who was he? He was Qin Wentian. He stepped onto the final step, experiencing what Yunmengyi had experienced. He allowed the boundless ancient will to seep into his body as he stood there with a smile on his face, staring up at the heavenly steel. Your will can't destroy my body, your will can't extinguish my will, your will can't move my heart. Qin Wentian stared at the heavenly steel as he continued, I am Qin Wentian, my fate is akin to a demon's. Chapter 333. I am Qin Wentian, my life is akin to that of a demon. Qin Wentian stood below the heavenly steel as he softly murmured. However, his voice was filled with determination. The life of a demon was incomparably tough. Powerful ancient demons, as long as they still had a single breath left in them, they wouldn't die. Qin Wentian had only experienced a short period of time in his life, yet his life was as tough as a demon's. He would always be able to escape death. Today, leaving aside the fact that he had to fight against Situ Pe, how could he lose to the heavenly steel's ancient will? This ancient will wouldn't be able to kill him. The heavenly steel steps, 27th step, reached the top. The spectators below stared up at the sky, as great waves of shock rocked their hearts. Situ Pe, who was the first to step up, was still hesitating. Yun Mengyi, who had unparalleled talent, was forcefully smashed down, sustaining heavy injuries. However, Qin Wentian, who was the last to step up, carried an incomparably strong will as he stood at the end of the heavenly steel steps. He stood there, as though he could touch the heavenly steel with his bare hands. How can this be? Yu Bingying couldn't believe her eyes. Qin Wentian actually managed to stand firm. He stood right below the heavenly steel, basking in the astral light, allowing the energy to flow through his body, yet he remained unmoved. Xian Yan, Xian Xian, Li Shiyu, and the rest all inclined their heads, staring at this inconceivable scene. This was a feat that no one had ever accomplished before. Today, had Qin Wentian accomplished it? Xian Yan had personally experienced the might of the 19th step, she knew how terrifying that place was. And Qin Wentian was on the 27th step. She had no way to imagine how terrifying that place would be. However, Qin Wentian had accomplished it. Is the will of humans innately born, or is it tempered later on? Xian Yan mumbled in a low voice, as though she was asking herself. She didn't know, she was born in a great clan, had outstanding talent, and was the pearl of the clan. After that, she entered the mystic maiden palace to cultivate and experienced many things. With her outstanding talent, she didn't lack cultivation resources, yet the mystic maiden palace still sent her on dangerous missions, forcing her to compete with other outstanding geniuses. She was able to stand out from the rest and become the princess of the mystic maiden palace, not only because of her talent, she also had a tenacious heart. But why was there still such a gap between her and Qin Wentian? She couldn't help but wonder if cultivating in a powerful family or sect was really better than cultivating alone. As for Qin Wentian, he didn't seem to know which sect he belonged to. It should be the day after tomorrow. Xian Xian mumbled. A person's innate talent might be determined by one's innate talent, but one's achievements were not determined by one's innate talent. Whether one's will was strong or not, it had nothing to do with innate talent. Yun Mengyi sat cross-legged on the ground, her body heavily injured. Initially, she was closing her eyes to meditate, but at this moment, she opened her eyes. Within her beautiful eyes, a hint of a smile could be seen. However, this smile of hers, no one could understand the meaning behind it. Ouyang Guangsheng, Fan Lu, Chu Mang and the rest were all stunned, but naturally, they were also filled with joy. Qin Wentian had already reached the end of the heavenly steel steps. Would Situ Pe dare to take that final step? Situ Pe stared at Qin Wentian, his heart wavering. He was the third person in this generation to have the authority to cultivate the 36 mountains. Before him, there was Yun Mengyi, and now, there was Qin Wentian. Both of them had already taken that final step. How could he, Situ Pe, not dare to? Qin Wentian stood there calmly, but from Yun Mengyi's reaction, one could tell that Qin Wentian wasn't as simple as he appeared to be. To him right now, no one knew what he was experiencing. If he took that final step, he might end up like Qin Wentian, enduring a myriad of pain. As long as his heart didn't waver, he would be able to endure it. But there was also the possibility that he would end up like Yun Mengyi, being blasted down the steps with heavy injuries. Naturally, there was also another possibility. If his heart was too weak, he might even die on the spot. If I don't take that final step, I won't be able to rest easy. Situ Pe was also a rare genius. He questioned his own heart, he wanted to overcome his fear, to overcome his desire to retreat. He wanted to strengthen his will, to strengthen his will, to strengthen his stubbornness once more. In fact, in today's battle, both he and Qin Wentian had already obtained great benefits. He stepped into the 9th level of Yuanfu, with all 3 of his mandates at the perfection boundary. As for Qin Wentian, since he could break through to the 18th level, it was obvious that his mandate had undergone a transformation. Not only that, his state of heart had also undergone a transformation. Powerful opponents would sometimes destroy their opponents, but at the same time, they could also mutually benefit each other. In this battle, he and Qin Wentian were mutually benefiting each other. Without Qin Wentian, without Yunmengyi, he wouldn't have been able to allow his heart to become so resolute, allowing him to walk all the way here. Similarly, without him, whether Qin Wentian could ascend to the 19th level or not was a variable. If he stopped at the 18th level, maybe, when Qin Wentian ascended to the 19th level, Qin Wentian would have already lost his will. Just like Fan Lu, he wholeheartedly fought against Xian Yan, for the sake of Xian Xian. Xian Yan stopped at the 18th level, but he gave it his all and ascended to the 19th level, sustaining heavy injuries. However, was that really his limit? Could he break through that limit? Since he was already there, why couldn't he stand firm? Because Xian Yan had admitted defeat. And after that, Fan Lu was blasted down from the 19th level. Finally, Situpa took the final step. But only at the instant he took the final step did he understand what Yunmengyi had experienced. In just an instant, Situpa was blasted down, his entire body dyed red with blood. His heart pounded madly, almost exploding to death. Why don't you ask, when your heart is about to shatter, when your will is severed, can your heart really remain unmoved? Situpa was blasted down, lying on the ground. Yu Bingying instantly rushed to his side, supporting his body. However, she only saw Situpa grabbing onto Yu Bingying's arm as he sat up. Although his entire body was dyed red with blood, his gaze was still fixed on Qin Wentian. How did he do it? In the past 10 years, the heavenly steel steps have been opened 3 times, making it much more convenient for the people of the Azure continent. However, even for those outstanding geniuses who had the opportunity to ascend the heavenly steel steps, they might not be able to achieve what I did. How many people can achieve this? Situpa stared at the back view of Qin Wentian. At this moment, a complicated expression flickered in his eyes. I've lost, Situpa mumbled in a low voice. You didn't, it's just a momentary lapse in thought. This doesn't count for anything, Yu Bingying consoled. A loss is a loss. This isn't a momentary lapse in thought. Even if I was given another chance, I still wouldn't be able to do it, Situpa replied in a low voice. This was the first time in his life that he had been defeated. Yu Bingying's heart pounded violently. She inclined her head, staring at Qin Wentian. He was still standing at the foot of the heavenly steel steps. Situpa had been defeated by him. Before this, Yu Bingying wanted to meet him when she heard that his talent wasn't weak. At that time, she didn't care too much about him. But today, he had defeated her pride, Situpa. This was the first time Yu Bingying heard the word defeat coming out of Situpa's mouth. Situpa, it's just a single defeat. Based on your talent, don't let it affect your state of heart. Yu Bingying stared at Situpa, worried that his will would suffer a blow. Don't worry, my heart is resolute. Situpa stared at Qin Wentian, as a cold light flashed in his eyes. This person's will is even more terrifying than mine. It doesn't matter if he's expelled from the unmatched realm or not. What's important is that he must die, Situpa spoke in a low voice, his countenance resolute, as an intense killing intent flickered in his eyes. After this battle, he truly admired Qin Wentian. However, this didn't affect his determination to kill Qin Wentian in the slightest. In fact, his determination only grew stronger. Qin Wentian had to die. But, that old man. Yu Bingying spoke in a low voice. Qin Wentian stood at the highest point of the heavenly steel steps. This battle was decided by that old man. If she wanted to kill Qin Wentian now, that old man would definitely participate. I know, I'll recuperate first, Situpa replied. After which, he closed his eyes and focused on recuperating. Although defeat was a blow to him, it didn't affect his heart at all. He had already ascended to the 26th level, and was only a single step away from the top. There was nothing for him to regret, nor would there be any demons in his heart. Not only that, if he thought on the bright side, his strength had also risen by leaps and bounds. Wasn't that a good thing? As long as Qin Wentian died, everything would come to a perfect end. As for his tarnished reputation, he still had a chance to redeem it. The trip to Ginku, the ranking battle of the heavenly fate rankings. At that time, who would dare to doubt him, Situpa? He would definitely be ranked on the heavenly fate rankings. As for the current Qin Wentian, what he was experiencing right now was far more complicated than what the spectators had imagined. At this moment, his will had actually entered the heavenly steel. The ancient will of the heavenly steel. The heavenly steel has its own will. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. At this moment, in front of his eyes, there was a majestic ancient kingdom, exuding a majestic aura. What made Qin Wentian even more shocked was that he felt a sense of déjà vu. Back then, when I was in the tiny astral being, I saw my old fogey father bringing away a maiden from the ancient kingdom. Seems like this is the place. Qin Wentian recalled the scene from a few years ago. It was as though he was replying to that scene. Abruptly, his body violently trembled. That beautiful maiden, it seemed to be her. As he thought of this, great waves of shock rocked Qin Wentian's heart. How could this be? What was going on exactly? Gazing ahead, this ancient kingdom was even more resplendent than what he remembered. Atop the jade steps, a silhouette wielding a long sword could be seen. That silhouette stood there, her long hair fluttering in the wind, exuding an unexcelled aura. This was a woman so beautiful that it dazzled the hearts of others. Just by standing there, she seemed to be able to stun the heavens. On top of the stairs, an army of 9 people stood in the lead. These 9 people all exuded an inconceivably powerful aura, yet when they stared at the maiden in front of them, a hint of admiration could be seen in their eyes. Princess Jianyu, the ancient kingdom has already been destroyed, Grand Xia has been split into 9 parts. Don't resist anymore. One of the 9 people slowly spoke, his eyes filled with unmasked greed as he stared at Princess Jianyu. If Qin Wentian had read the ancient records regarding the disappearance of Grand Xia, he would know that Princess Jianyu was the last princess of Grand Xia. She was also the most outstanding character in the history of Grand Xia, no one could compare to her. With regards to Princess Jianyu's ending, there were many rumors circulating in Grand Xia. However, the majority of the rumors were of a tragic ending. Princess Jianyu was a peerless beauty, as well as her shocking talent. How could she not be humiliated when she fell into the hands of those people? Every time those who read about the history of Grand Xia read about the story of Princess Jianyu, they would involuntarily feel pain in their hearts. But today, Qin Wentian had actually personally witnessed this scene in the heavenly steel. Chapter 334. Although Qin Wentian didn't know much about the destruction of the Great Xia Empire thousands of years ago, he had heard of it. In the past, the Great Xia Empire didn't have 9 cities, and there weren't so many overlord-level forces. The Grand Xia Empire unified the entire world. Countless experts were under the control of the Grand Xia Empire. Once upon a time, Grand Xia was unfathomably powerful, nobody could stand against it. After that, Grand Xia was divided into 9 parts, resulting in the 9 continents. After that, the various transcendent powers started to rise, dividing Grand Xia among themselves. As for the ancient dynasty of today, it was no longer the ancient dynasty of the past. Many years ago, when Great Xia was divided into 9 parts, it marked the end of the ancient dynasty. Now, it was rumored that only one branch of the ancient dynasty was left. As for whether the rumors were true or false, it had yet to be verified. Therefore, when Qin Wentian saw the scene in front of him, his heart could not help but tremble slightly. What kind of treasure is this heavenly monument? It actually recorded the destruction of the ancient dynasty. Does this mean that this heavenly monument is a relic of the ancient dynasty? Qin Wentian thought. As it turned out, the heavenly steel platform that had been in the Azure continent for so many years actually had a secret. When did this heavenly steel hull appear in Azure Continent City? Many doubts surfaced in his mind, but at this moment, Qin Wentian was still watching the scene in front of him. A terrifying aura erupted from Princess Jianyu's body, and there seemed to be a true dragon coiling around her sword. Princess Jianyu, do you want to destroy Grand Xia completely? A cold voice rang out from that person's mouth, causing despair to fill Princess Jianyu's eyes. That person walked in front of Princess Jianyu, staring at her beauty as he greedily spoke, "Princess, do you know that we've admired you for a very long time?" Princess Jianyu's face was pale. She bit her lips and her expression was extremely cold. "Are you willing to leave behind descendants for us? They will inherit our position, they will be the only remaining descendants of the emperor's bloodline in Grand Xiao." The middle-aged man looked at Princess Jianyu and said in a loud voice. Princess Jianyu's face turned even paler, and the hand holding the sword trembled. Did she want to preserve the bloodline of Grand Xiao? These people wanted to sully her. If you agree, put down the sword in your hand. Princess Jianyu's body trembled, she was in incomparable pain. Her heart felt like it was being tormented in purgatory. She was not reconciled. If the thief did not die, she could not die. With a soft sound, the sword fell to the ground. A sinister smile appeared on the face of the middle-aged man. After which, he slowly walked forwards, his hands caressing Princess Jianyu's skin. How greedy was he? He was finally going to obtain this woman who had stunned the entire Grand Xiao. With a wave of his hand, everyone except for the 9 of them left. The middle-aged man's hand brushed past Princess Jianyu's robes. Gradually, her robes fell off, revealing her flawless, jade-like skin. Her perfect body appeared before his eyes. "Xia Tianyu, you're so beautiful." The sinister light in the middle-aged man's eyes burned brightly as his hands caressed every inch of her beautiful body. Princess Jianyu's tears slowly flowed down her cheeks, but her heart was incomparably resolute. She swore that even if it took 1,000 years or 10,000 years, she would take revenge. Destroy the divine steel and split it into 9. Each of us will get one. The middle-aged man spoke in a low voice. The 8 of them turned and faced the divine steel outside the ancient palace of Grand Xia. From now on, the 9 ultimate arts of Grand Xia shall be the sole hegemon of our 9 branches. Although the divine steel cannot be destroyed, the 9 of us shall never meet again, and the divine steel shall never be restored. That man greedily bit down on Princess Jianyu's skin, hugging her perfect body as he walked out of the palace. After which, rumbling sounds rang out as the other 8 attacked the divine steel. This was the final scene, and it had an extremely great impact on Qin Wentian. He could already guess a few things. Firstly, the scene before his eyes was the final scene of the divine steel. This meant that the 3-sided divine steel above his head was none other than the original divine steel that had been split into 9. However, 3 of the 9 sides had been collected here. Secondly, the 9 prefectures of Grand Xia must have originated from this. How pitiful Princess Jianyu was, to suffer such humiliation. As for what happened to her afterwards, it was still a mystery. As for the middle-aged man's words, after the divine steel was destroyed, the 9 ultimate arts would be the sole hegemon of Grand Xiao. Could this mean that, the 9 of them had cultivated the 9 ultimate arts of Grand Xiao, and these 9 ultimate arts were all contained within the divine steel? They wanted the 9 pieces of the divine steel to never meet again, never to be reunited. Who? Retracting his will, Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath as a mysterious pressure bore down on him. Qin Wentian's heart stirred as the Yellow Springs monument appeared, hovering in the air as a heart-palpitating aura of blood gushed forth. Can your body of flesh and blood withstand the force of your attack? Qin Wentian recalled the ancient will of the heavenly steel. That was an attack of pure force, followed by an attack of the will of mandates. As for the Yellow Springs Monument, it was an attack of the power of blood. However, he was the one controlling the Yellow Springs Monument. Hence, the power it could unleash wasn't strong enough. The Yellow Springs Monument was obtained by the Azure Emperor, and was later controlled by Fairy Qingmei. She placed it on the refinement grounds of the immortal soul, setting up the ancient pathway of the Yellow Springs. This was also a test of one's talent and will. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. The Yellow Springs Monument that the Azure Emperor had obtained was also a fragment of the divine steel. However, there were still clouds of unanswered questions. Could it be that the 9 meridians no longer existed? There were 3 pieces of the divine steel here, but why didn't anyone come to snatch them away? Could it be that the owner of the heavenly steel was so powerful? Not only that, after the divine steel was separated, it was clear that it could be controlled by a person. Just like how he could control the Yellow Springs Monument to unleash immense power. In that case, were the ancient wills within the 3 heavenly steels really the original will of the heavenly steel? Or was it controlled by someone else? Naturally, the most important question was, what did all of this have to do with him? He wasn't even 20 yet, and his old fogey father must have died after he was born. It was impossible for him to be someone from a few thousand years ago. Why was it that he was the one who ended up here, in front of the heavenly steel? Could it be that everything was just a coincidence? This was impossible, because the maiden that his old fogey father brought away from Grand Xia was extremely similar to a certain person, Yunmengyi. Forget it, it would be too wasteful if I don't cultivate properly. Qin Wentian had no way to unravel the mystery in his heart. He could only discard all distracting thoughts and close his eyes to cultivate. Luckily, the ancient will of the heavenly steel had weakened, or else he would have died without a doubt. However, this also confirmed his suspicions that someone was controlling the heavenly steel. After a period of time, Qin Wentian tossed aside all distracting thoughts and focused on his cultivation. After experiencing a baptism of his state of heart, this was the most suitable time for him to break through to the next level. Situpa had broken through under such conditions, and he could do the same as well. The ancient will of the heavenly steel has weakened. Below, Fan Lu and the rest felt their hearts trembling. "Emichim, what's going on?" Ouyang Guangsheng had a puzzled expression on his face. Situpa also didn't understand, but he was still recovering from his injuries and didn't have the time to think too much about it. However, at this moment, Yunmengyi's beautiful eyes flickered as she stared at the silhouette atop the heavenly steel steps. "You've lost." A voice abruptly drifted into Yunmengyi's ears. Nobody noticed it, only Yunmengyi had heard it. Yunmengyi nodded her head lightly. She knew that she had lost. Today, she naturally didn't come here to help Qin Wentian. She was the same as Situpa, she came here to spar with Qin Wentian. However, she had lost. She didn't manage to ascend to the highest level and obtain the divine steel that belonged to her. Since you've lost, from now onwards, you should be loyal to him. You won't disgrace yourself. For this trip to Grand Xia, accompany him. You are more familiar with that place than him. That voice drifted over once more. Yunmengyi inclined her head, staring at Qin Wentian. Maybe, this was her destiny. This time around, Qin Wentian only used a month to break through the bottleneck of the 6th level of Yuanfu, stepping into the 7th level of Yuanfu. Not only him, but those who had ascended the heavenly steel steps had also improved, especially those who had ascended to the 18th step. All of them had experienced a sublimation of their martial wills, a transformation of their mental state, and their strength had clearly improved. Currently, Chu Mang had stepped into the 8th level of Yuanfu, while Ouyang Guangsheng and Fan Lu had both broken through to the 7th level. In fact, Ouyang Guangsheng was already preparing to break through to the 8th level. Not only that, their mandates had also undergone a qualitative transformation. Yunmengyi was someone who couldn't be underestimated. This time around, her mandates had already reached the perfection boundary. Right now, her cultivation base was at the 9th level of Yuanfu, with all 3 of her mandates at the perfection boundary. Naturally, the ones with the greatest improvements were still Situ Pe and Qin Wentian. Situ Pe, at the 9th level of Yuanfu, with 3 mandates at the perfection boundary. Qin Wentian, at the 7th level of Yuanfu, with 3 mandates at the perfection boundary. His will was incomparably tough, and his state of heart was unshakable. Those who had left felt extremely depressed in their hearts. They didn't even get to see the battle between the 3 of them. But then again, Qin Wentian was truly amazing. He actually became the #1 contender, defeating Situ Pe. Sadly, Qin Wentian's cultivation base was too low, and there wasn't much time left until the end of the year. It would be impossible for him to ascend to the heavenly fate rankings at the end of the year. Naturally, Qin Wentian didn't think this way. At this moment, he stopped his cultivation and stood up with a confident smile on his face. If it weren't for this tempering exercise, it would have been extremely difficult for him to improve so much in the short span of a few months. Indeed, this was a very good opportunity for him. Many thanks, Senior. Qin Wentian clasped his hands to the old man beside him as he politely thanked him. You did it yourself, there's no need to thank me, the old man casually replied. Qin Wentian smiled. He guessed that this old man must be an extraordinary character. Junior bids my farewell. Qin Wentian bowed as he prepared to depart. This heavenly steel is yours now, take it away, the old man casually stated, his words causing Qin Wentian's eyes to flicker. This heavenly steel was the divine steel, yet this old man was actually giving it to him. Back then, my master told me that the heavenly steel would belong to whoever could reach the bottom of the heavenly steel. And you've done it. Take it away, the old man impatiently stated. Qin Wentian no longer stood on ceremony, he kept the Yellow Springs monument and the heavenly steel. However, the mystery in his heart grew even stronger, he wanted to unravel it, but sadly, he couldn't. Lifting his feet, Qin Wentian walked down the stairs. The old man held onto his broom as he stared up at the sky. A hint of gentleness could be seen in his eyes, as though he was still thinking of Qin Wentian. In the ancient capital of Ginku, the Venerate Heavens sect. It was unknown how many years ago, the Venerate Heavens sect was once known as the Venerate Heavenly Supervisor. It was a department under the control of the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia. At this moment, in the Venerate Heavens sect, an old man stared up at the sky. His eyes shone with a resplendent light, piercing through the void, staring at the constellation of Grand Xia. The demon constellation is getting brighter and brighter, the constellation of Grand Xia is filled with the power of the wind and clouds. The constellation of Grand Xia shone resplendently, each contending with their own sharpness. However, within this constellation, there's actually a unifying force. The old man's heart trembled. This constellation was something rarely seen in 1,000 years. Chapter 335. The spectators watched as Qin Wentian walked down the steps, their hearts trembling. Without the heavenly steel platform, could it still be called the heavenly steel platform? The heavenly steel was actually given to Qin Wentian. Naturally, the people here had no idea what these 3 heavenly steels were. If not, a terrifying storm would surely erupt. The divine steel, in its name, bore witness to the rise and fall of ancient Grand Xia. Once, countless heroes of ancient Grand Xia had been baptized by it. The divine steel was like an ancient mirror, a scroll of history. On it, the 9 ultimate arts of ancient Grand Xia were inscribed. But now, the 9 ultimate arts had split into 9, no longer intersecting with each other. If Qin Wentian had a deeper understanding of the history of ancient Grand Xia, he would have known that there were some transcendent powers in the Grand Xia Empire whose ultimate arts were none other than the 9 ultimate arts inscribed on the divine steel of ancient Grand Xia. However, although they were still powerful, they no longer had the glory of the past. The ancient Grand Xia of the past was many times stronger compared to the current ancient Grand Xia. One could say that even if all the transcendent powers in the 9 continents joined forces, they still wouldn't be as strong as the ancient Grand Xia of the past. If not, how could the ancient Grand Xia have been able to unify the world? Behind Qin Wentian, the old man was sweeping the stairs once more. Maybe, this would be the last time he would sweep the stairs. "Boss, can you lend me the heavenly steel to play with for 2 days?" Fan Lu narrowed his eyes as he watched Qin Wentian walk over. That powerful heavenly steel actually became Qin Wentian's possession. How interesting. Qin Wentian glared at Fan Lu as he walked to the side of Chu Mang and the rest. Glancing at them, he could see that their strength had all improved. This trip to the heavenly steel steps had been extremely fruitful. Shifting his gaze over, Qin Wentian glanced at Situpa, Yu Bingying and the rest. Situpa was also looking at him as he calmly stated, "Let's meet again in Ginkgo." As the sound of his voice faded, he left with Yu Bingying. Looking into his eyes, Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a cold light. Situpa's killing intent was still as strong as ever. "In that case, let's meet again in Ginkgo." Most likely, the people here would all be heading to Ginkgo soon. It wasn't too long until the end of the year. "Xian Xian, let's go back." Those from the Mystic Maiden Palace also prepared to depart. Xian Xian's beautiful eyes turned to Fan Lu as she smiled, "Will you be heading to Ginkgo?" "Right." Fan Lu nodded his head. "In that case, let's meet again in the Ginkgo continent." Xian Xian smiled sweetly. After that, she left with Xian Yan and the others from the Mystic Maiden Palace. Fan Lu laughed in a silly manner as he scratched his head. Qin Wentian couldn't help but perspire in his heart when he saw this scene. Spring had arrived for Fatty, he had turned silly. Not far away, that white-robed figure was also preparing to depart, only to hear Qin Wentian calling out, "Yunmengyi." Yunmengyi halted her steps. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered, appearing beside her as he spoke, "I have something to ask you." After speaking, he pulled on Yunmengyi's arm and led her away. Maybe Yunmengyi knew some of the mysteries in his heart. Yunmengyi furrowed her brows, but when she thought of that person, she relaxed and allowed Qin Wentian to pull her away. This scene caused both Ouyang Guangsheng and Fan Lu to be taken aback. Too ferocious. Very ferocious. Ouyang Guangsheng nodded his head. Yunmengyi was as cold as ice. Qin Wentian actually dragged her away to be alone. Qin Wentian walked together with Yunmengyi as he asked, "Who are you?" Yunmengyi stared at him as she replied in a cold voice, "Yunmengyi. You already knew who I was the moment I stepped into the unmatched realm." Qin Wentian stared into Yunmengyi's eyes. Yunmengyi flung his hand away as she replied, "I'm Xia Tianyu." Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened as he stared fixedly at her. "Impossible. You don't believe me?" Yunmengyi stared at Qin Wentian as a strange smile flickered in her eyes. "Do you believe that I'm your elder sister?" Qin Wentian didn't reply. The current Yunmengyi gave him a strange feeling. That smile of hers was extremely foreign. Her words had no credibility at all. Only she herself would know whether she was telling the truth or not. "I don't believe you," Qin Wentian replied. "Since that's the case, why do you still need to ask me? After you arrive at Ginkgo, I will look for you." After speaking, Yunmengyi slowly walked away. The aura she exuded was still as cold as ever, nobody could guess what she was thinking. "Who?" Qin Wentian exhaled, he still couldn't see through her. Back then, the person his old fogey father brought out from Grand Xia, was it Yunmengyi? What was the relationship between Yunmengyi and Xia Tianyu? Why did the divine steel end up in his hands? Was it really because he walked in front of the heavenly steel and obtained the recognition of that old man? That old man himself was a terrifying character. If not, he wouldn't have been able to withstand the pressure from the divine steel. And now, he said that he was obeying the orders of his master. What sort of character was his master? What's wrong? Ouyang Guangsheng and the rest walked over when they saw Qin Wentian standing there in a daze. Little rascal also leapt into Qin Wentian's embrace, rubbing its head against his chest. Nothing. Qin Wentian shook his head. Even he himself wasn't clear about his origins, there was no point in explaining it. He didn't know if this trip to the ancient kingdom would be able to unravel the mystery behind it. We're almost there, it's about time for us to head to Ginkgo. I'm afraid that those from the Azure continent will also be heading there soon. Ginkgo is now bustling with activity. Ouyang Guangsheng laughed, his heart filled with anticipation. Who knew how many geniuses would be gathered for this trip to the ancient capital once every 3 years? It's about time, there's only a few more months left. Qin Wentian felt a sense of urgency in his heart. Although his strength had improved tremendously in this year, it was still impossible for him to become one of the top 3 rankers of the Heavenly Fate rankings. The top 3 rankers were the strongest among the countless peak Yuanfu cultivators. Their mandates had already reached the perfection boundary, and their innate techniques and cultivation arts were all top-notch as well. Not only that, there might even be some who had comprehended a second-level mandate. Let's make a trip back to the Ouyang aristocrat clan first. I'm afraid there will be many from the Ouyang aristocrat clan heading there. Ouyang Guangsheng spoke. Qin Wentian naturally didn't have any objections, and accompanied Ouyang Guangsheng back to the Ouyang aristocrat clan. After Ouyang Guangsheng reported the situation to his superiors, the Ouyang aristocrat clan issued an order. 7 days later, those who had the qualifications to participate in the ranking battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings would all be sent to Ginkgo. At this moment, in Ouyang Guangsheng's residence, a 3-sided heavenly steel floated in the air. Qin Wentian, Fan Lu, Chu Mang and Ouyang Guangsheng were all below the heavenly steel, sensing the ancient will within. Force, use my strength to attack my body. Qin Wentian's body rushed towards the heavenly steel in the air. Currently, he could already confirm that the 3-sided heavenly steel contained an ancient will, and could unleash and retract its attacks as he wished. Just a little bit more, I can still withstand even more force. Qin Wentian took a step forward in the air, as thunderous rumbling sounds echoed out. The terrifying force blasted against his body, causing him to spit out fresh blood. Yet in his eyes, a resolute determination could be seen. With the presence of the 3-sided heavenly steel, how could they waste any more time? They could feel the pressure and break through their limits. Back then, the divine steel was used to baptize the members of the royal clan of Grand Xia. But now, it was being used by Qin Wentian to break through his limits. Ouyang Guangsheng, Fan Lu and the rest were all immersed in the torment of the divine steel. Although the pain was excruciating, they could feel their strength and willpower changing little by little. In the blink of an eye, 7 days passed. Today, the members of the Ouyang aristocrat clan gathered in the vast Dao cultivation grounds. Over here, there were powerful ancient demonic mounts escorting them as they headed towards Ginkgo. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over the crowd. In the vast Dao cultivation grounds, there were at least a few hundred people with a cultivation base at the 9th level of Yuanfu. The number of people in an aristocratic family was innumerable, and there would be no lack of people of any cultivation realm. Of course, the majority of these several hundred people were probably cannon fodder, but one could imagine how many people would descend on Ginkgo this time around. Let's move out. The clan lord of the Ouyang aristocrat clan personally came to send them off. Although the Yuanfu realm was only the strength of the younger generations of an aristocrat clan, those who had undergone the baptism and performed outstandingly would all become the core members of their clan in the future. In the airspace above the Ouyang aristocrat clan, demonic chi towered up into the skies as the ancient demonic beasts soared through the air, flying towards the central region of Grand Xia. In the 9 continents of Grand Xia, Ginkgo, Moon Continent and War Continent were the 3 ancient cities that formed a triangular formation, located in the central region of Grand Xia. Among them, Ginkgo was the most powerful. It was the true central region of Grand Xia. Even the countries surrounding Ginkgo were extremely powerful, with experts as common as the clouds. Although the ancient kingdom was destroyed, the ancient capital was still the most flourishing city in the 9 continents. This city had witnessed the rise and fall of Grand Xia's history. In Ginkgo, the demonic beasts howled unceasingly as experts soared through the air. It was as though there was no end to their numbers. These experts were either alone or in groups of 3 to 5, chatting freely in the air as they stared at the ancient city, their hearts surging with passion. And as for those below, when they stared at the skies, their hearts were similarly stirred. At this moment, in the air, a group of sword cultivators could be seen soaring through the skies. They were all clad in white, resembling supreme sword immortals, exuding an awe-inspiring aura. Those should be the swallow swordsmen. They're all sword cultivators from the Yen continent. Their robes are clean and simple. There are so many demonic beasts over there. Are they from the transcendent powers of the demon continent? Is it the Sky Demon sect or the Beast King Hall? Who are those people? What a powerful formation, they're definitely from a transcendent power. The gazes of those in the crowd turned to a certain direction, where many people could be seen. Only to see a silhouette standing there proudly, as though he could be found in the crowd with a single glance. That's Hua Taishu, I've seen him before. He's the top ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings, Hua Taishu. But now that he's already broken through to Heavenly Dipper, he shouldn't be participating in the ranking battle this time around. But even so, he's still a legend. Yeah, those from the Hua clan have arrived. That transcendent power beside them should also be from the Moon continent. With such an imposing manner, other than the Pill Emperor Hall, there shouldn't be any other. Many in the crowd sighed in admiration. They searched the Pill Emperor Hall, and soon after, they saw a few outstanding characters. That young man with golden eyes, I think he's Zhan Chen. I heard that he cultivated an ascendance cultivation art, causing his strength to increase to an incomparably terrifying level. There's even a rumor that he intentionally suppressed his cultivation base, all for the sake of becoming the top ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings, causing his name to shake the entire Grand Xia. Who's that young woman? What a beauty, her beauty can topple empires. That woman is none other than the daughter of the Pill Emperor, Mo Qingcheng, the disciple of Luo He. She's very low profile, and very few people know of her. But in the Moon continent, her name can shake the heavens. Countless voices filled the skies of the Ginkgo continent. In the ancient capital of Grand Xia, where the elites of the 9 continents gathered, there were naturally countless topics to talk about. Chapter 336. In the Ginkgo continent, the various inns and restaurants were bustling with activity. These days, there were simply too many customers. Not only did the major powers of Grand Xia arrive, even the major characters of the Grand Xia Empire wanted to take a look at this banquet. At this moment, on the streets of the Ginkgo continent, a few silhouettes could be seen strolling about. Among them were 2 young maidens, both extremely beautiful and exceptionally eye-catching. However, the person behind them exuded a cold and gloomy aura, causing others to not dare to approach him. But strangely, the person in the middle of the 2 maidens was actually an ordinary-looking old man. His aura was extremely weak, as though he was an ordinary mortal. The Ginkgo continent is truly flourishing. The old man stared at the towering buildings in his surroundings, as a myriad of emotions surfaced in his heart. He couldn't help but feel somewhat amused as he thought back to the matters he was so stubborn about in the past. Chu, Sky Harmony City, in the face of the vastness of the 9 continents, was as insignificant as an ant. The people here, even those who casually strolled about on the streets, were all existences he had once regarded as lofty existences. His horizons had changed, and his heart had also changed. Autumn Snow, you have to work hard and learn from your younger sister. This world is truly too vast. Bai Qingsong sighed. Autumn Snow nodded her head, father, I will work hard. But if I want to catch up to my younger sister, I'm afraid it's impossible. Elder sister, you have to have more confidence in yourself. The beautiful lady beside Autumn Snow laughed. This lady had a tall and slender figure, even taller than Autumn Snow. Her figure was extremely well proportioned, and her skin was as white as snow. She was an extremely beautiful lady, and yet, her eyes gave off a depth that didn't match her age. It was as though she had experienced many things. This young maiden was Autumn Snow's younger sister, Bai Qing. Currently, her status in the Mystic Moon Hall was extraordinary, and she had brought her family over to the Mystic Moon Hall. Confidence. Autumn Snow lightly shook her head. I wonder if he will come to Grand Xia. Thinking of him, a faint smile appeared on Autumn Snow's younger sister's face. After experiencing so many things, she had long since let go of everything. She also felt regret for what she had done in the past. Not only her father Bai Qingsong had also let go of everything, and didn't blame Qin Wentian for crippling him. And because of this, Bai Qing was able to reunite with her parents, and their family was reunited. Bai Qingsong was stunned for a moment. Then, he smiled bitterly and shook his head. Sometimes, I really want to go back to the past. If I didn't do those things for my own selfish reasons, perhaps you and him would also be an enviable couple. Okay, it's all in the past. You guys don't have to bring it up. Bai Qing interjected, causing Bai Qingsong to smile and shake his head. Let's not talk about it, it's all in the past. Bai Qing's gaze was fixed on the horizon as she mused in her heart. Back then during the refinement grounds at the Celestial Lake, Wentian Gige had already broken through to Yuanfu. Now, after such a long time, her cultivation base had already reached the 8th level of Yuanfu. Although it was due to her own hard work and experience, Wentian Gige was more outstanding than her. He shouldn't be weaker than her, right? As she thought of this, a faint smile flickered in Bai Qing's eyes. At this moment, she exuded an innocent beauty. On the main road, Qin Wentian sneezed and whispered, "Who's thinking of me?" "Don't be so smug, boss." Fan Li's lips twitched. "Do you think I'm the one?" "There's always someone thinking of me." Qin Wentian rolled his eyes. Little Rascal in his embrace also flipped its body, as though it couldn't bear it anymore. This caused Fan Lu to smack it lightly on its little head. They arrived at Ginkgo yesterday, and early in the morning, Fatty suggested that they go out for a stroll. There were many inns in this area, and the main road they were on was exceedingly wide, able to accommodate over 100 people walking side by side. Demonic beasts constantly flitted past them, and shops could be seen on both sides of the road. Occasionally, on the main road, they would encounter groups of people with extraordinary auras. The majority of these people were from major powers, and were filled with confidence. Who are these people? They all exude an aura of sharpness, akin to unsheathed swords. Qin Wentian glanced at the silhouettes of a group of youths as he asked Ouyang Guangsheng. People from the War Continent. There are many transcendent powers in the War Continent that are proficient in weaponsmithing. The innate techniques and cultivation arts they cultivate are all complemented by divine weapons. Hence, their aura is extremely sharp. Ouyang Guangsheng replied, not only that, the War Continent isn't too far away from Ginkgo. Together with Ginkgo and the Moon Continent, they are considered the most powerful of the 3 continents in Grand Xia. That's why I feel a sense of superiority. The 36 transcendent powers of the 9 continents should all be here, right? Qin Wentian asked in a low voice. Ouyang Guangsheng nodded his head. Naturally, the 9 Mystical Palace and Green Cloud Pavilion would also send their people over. You should be more familiar with those places. After all, Chu is the closest to the Qin continent. The 9 Mystical Palace couldn't be said to be familiar with them, but he had indeed interacted with them several times before. Now, if he were to meet people from the 9 Mystical Palace, there was something he had to clarify. As for the Green Cloud Pavilion, the only people he had interacted with were Senior Gong Hong and Qian Mengyu. Currently, he didn't know how Gong Hong was doing. Not long after Gong Hong left Chu, Qin Wentian headed towards the Moon continent. Even if Gong Hong returned to Chu in the future, he wouldn't be able to find Qin Wentian. Chu. Qin Wentian felt a trace of worry in his heart. Chu was a weak country, yet there were so many people he missed so much. Qingqing from the Pill Emperor Hall. This time around, she should be here as well. Qin Wentian silently mused. Qingqing was highly regarded by the Pill Emperor Hall, and was nurtured as a core disciple. Luo he was extremely fond of her, and Mo Qingqing's strength definitely wouldn't be any slower than his. How fragrant. At this moment, a fragrant aroma drifted over. Fan Lo took a deep breath as he narrowed his eyes, searching for the source of the fragrance. Over there. Chu Mang pointed to a luxurious inn in front of them. A banner could be seen fluttering in the wind, with a few words written on it. Drunken Immortal Lodge. Good name. Ouyang Guangxing laughed. Come, let's go and drink a few cups. Right, I want to drink a few cups as well. Beside Ouyang Guangxing, Ouyang Xiaolu blinked her eyes, causing Ouyang Guangxing to glare at her. This has nothing to do with you. Let's drink, women eat meat. Humph, Ouyang Xiaolu glared at Ouyang Guangxing. When I see elder sister Ting, I will get her to help me deal with you. The elder sister Ting that Ouyang Xiaolu was referring to wasn't Ouyang Ting, but rather, Ouyang Guangxing's fiancée, Jiang Ting. As a descendant of a transcendent power in the Wind continent, Jiang Ting would naturally come as well. Che, we still don't know who will be the one to deal with who. Ouyang Guangxing curled his lips. Really? Do you dare to say that again? Ouyang Xiaolu disdainfully retorted. If that last Jiang Ting is here, I will definitely teach her a good lesson. How about it? Ouyang Guangxing's voice rang out. As the sound of his voice faded, a smile appeared on Ouyang Xiaolu's face, causing Ouyang Guangxing to feel a sense of unease. Abruptly, he turned, only to see a beautiful silhouette standing behind him. Qin Wentian and Fan Lo didn't even need to turn their heads to know who was there. Their faces were filled with sympathy as they stared at Ouyang Guangxing. You guys. Ouyang Guangxing knew that he had been tricked. These fellows seemed to know everything. How disloyal. Ever since they parted at the Celestial Lake Palace, Qin Wentian hadn't seen Jiang Ting again. Now that she had matured, her figure was slender and elegant, exuding an aura of femininity. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she stared at Ouyang Guangxing, causing him to laugh heartily. Ting you're here. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't this smelly lass tell me? Humph, Jiang Ting let Ouyang Guangxing hug empty air as she walked past him. Ouyang Guangxing trembled as he followed after her, laughing, I was only joking earlier, just joking. Seeing this scene, Qin Wentian and the rest all laughed as they entered the Drunken Immortal Lodge. After which, they found a good table on the second floor by the window and sat down, chatting away as they drank. The inn was filled to the brim with guests, chatting about everything under the heavens. However, at this moment, no one knew that this unremarkable table of people would cause a tempest in Grand Xia in the future. Outside the Drunken Immortal Inn, there was a continuous stream of people entering. At this moment, a group of people entered. Among these people, there were 3 males and 3 females. Among the 3 females, one of them was slightly shorter and had an ordinary countenance, as though she had a sense of inferiority. She followed behind the group of people and didn't speak at all. The one who spoke the most had a hint of flirtatiousness to her. Her eyes scanned the surroundings, as though she was exceptionally intelligent. Not only that, she had a voluptuous figure, and her peaks were half exposed, causing people to drool over her. However, the most dazzling person was none other than the last female. She had an innate sexiness to her. Her beautiful eyes were filled with a sense of charm, and her vermilion lips were slightly pursed. She didn't speak much, but her beauty was absolutely breathtaking. It was as though she was born with an innate charm, causing even women to be jealous of her. Yang Xia, don't worry. There will be a brother from my clan arriving soon. We will treat him to a meal and get him to put in a good word for us. It definitely wouldn't be a problem for us to enter the Pill Emperor Hall for cultivation. One of the young men stared at the half-exposed female, his eyes involuntarily staring at the snow-white ravine, as though he wanted to peek at the scenery within. How strong is this Pill Emperor Hall? Yang Xia was filled with anticipation. A transcendent power, the Pill Emperor Hall. In the Moon Continent, there's a transcendent power, the Pill Emperor Hall. Who in the 9 continents wouldn't fear them? Hence, all the transcendent powers would have to seek help from the Pill Emperor Hall. Among the transcendent powers, the Pill Emperor Hall can be ranked within the top 3. The young man boasted, and as they spoke, they found a seat on the 2nd floor and sat down. That brother of mine is named Jingyu. His talent is outstanding and has already entered the tutelage of the daughter of the Pill Emperor, Luo He. When he arrives, all of you better speak to him properly. He's a genius of the Pill Emperor Hall, a true major character. The young man seriously spoke, his words causing a brilliant light to flash in Yang Xia's eyes. She pulled down her robes, revealing her snow-white ravine. This time, it was an opportunity for her. Her gaze inadvertently shifted onto the beautiful young woman beside her as a hint of jealousy flashed in her eyes. This woman was born with an innate charm, even more alluring than her. She was a threat to her. What did you say? Yang Xia stared at the beautiful young woman as she asked. Given the Pill Emperor Hall's power, it's only natural that they would be extremely strict. How can they rely on such methods to pass? The beautiful young woman laughed. While they were discussing about the Pill Emperor Hall, Qin Wentian's gaze instantly landed on the back of a young woman. Upon hearing her words, a radiant smile flickered in Qin Wentian's eyes. Happiness, and warmth. As though she had sensed something, the beautiful young woman turned around. An instant later, her body trembled violently as her beautiful eyes froze in place. Little rascal, it's been a few years since we last met. Chapter 337. When Qin Wentian left Chu, the situation in Chu had already stabilized. Chu Wuwei governed the country, resolving the grudges between the various factions and assisting in the reconstruction of the Emperor Star Academy. Although the power structure of the major clans had changed, it was merely a matter of prosperity and decline. This was something that was bound to happen. Luo Huan knew that there was no longer a need for her to remain in Chu. Hence, she decided to roam the continent alone, traveling to the west. She visited many countries, including the Qin continent. She knew that Chu was too small, and her strength was too weak. In addition, she was naturally seductive and had an innate charm, so it was easy for others to covet her beauty. Many times, she had faced danger. Fortunately, she was an extremely intelligent person, and after interacting with various people, she was able to protect herself. However, she also knew the importance of powerful strength and background. She wanted to join a major power because she had experienced many things in these few years. Although her talent wasn't weak, it wasn't strong enough to dazzle the eyes of others. Only by joining a major power would she be able to protect herself better. After arriving at Ginkgo, she got to know a few more people and decided to travel together. Although the tone of these people was filled with boasting, she still chose to travel together with them, feigning civility. This was also a method to protect herself. Compared to traveling alone, it was much safer. As for the words of the other party, she had only heard it in passing. Although she wanted to join a major power, she had never thought of joining the Pill Emperor Hall. However, Luo Huan didn't expect that the words of the other party were half-truths. The Jingyu she knew was indeed a disciple of Luo He from the Pill Emperor Hall. He had once accompanied Luo He to Chu to fetch Imo Qincheng. Naturally, what caused Luo Huan to be pleasantly surprised was that she had actually met Qin Wentian in the inn. The aura of this little fellow now was already vastly different from before. Luo Huan could still vaguely remember the time when she accompanied her teacher Mustang to the Sky Harmony City, and the first time they had met Qin Wentian fleeing for his life. At this moment, as their gazes met, warm smiles could be seen on the faces of the two of them. Not only that, their relationship was already as close as that of a brother and sister. Meeting again after such a long time, there was warmth in their hearts. It was wonderful to see him again. Fan Lo also noticed the strange expression on Qin Wentian's face. Shifting his gaze over, his eyes instantly brightened. To think that he would actually see his senior sister Luo Huan here. Jing Yu, you're here. At this moment, the young man seated at Luo Huan's table stood up and stared at the staircase, only to see a young man slowly walking up, startling the smiling Luo Huan. Luo Huan's beautiful eyes flickered as a crafty glint flashed in her eyes. Did these fellows really find someone to impersonate someone from the Pill Emperor Hall? As she thought of this, she gestured for Qin Wentian and Fan Lo to keep quiet. After which, she blinked her eyes, her every frown and every smile on her face was extremely pleasing to the eyes. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over to the staircase, and when he saw Jingyu, a strange expression involuntarily appeared on his face. Since Jingyu was already here, it meant that those from the Pill Emperor Hall shouldn't be too far away. It was very likely that Qingqing was in the vicinity. As he thought of this, Qin Wentian cooperated with Luo Huan's actions. Silently, he turned his head back and continued drinking his wine, as though he hadn't seen anything. Jingyu came together with a young man. This young man was clad in luxurious robes, and was extraordinarily handsome, exuding an aura of heroism. The instant Luo Huan saw the two of them, she couldn't help but have a strange expression on her face. These two exuded an extraordinary aura, and didn't seem to be swindlers at all. It was as though they truly had a deep foundation. Jingyu was clad in white, and his aura was slightly inferior. His brows were furrowed in worry, as though he had something weighing on his mind. As for the young man beside him, he was brimming with energy and vigor. This young man was someone from the Qin clan. In the Ginkgo continent, the Qin clan was one of the most ancient aristocratic clans in Grand Xia. In fact, there were even rumors that one of the 9 great clans that destroyed Grand Xia was the Qin clan. They were one of the 9 great clans that Grand Xia relied on the most. After the destruction of Grand Xia, the Qin clan lord established a new Qin clan in the Ginkgo continent. In the 9 continents of Grand Xia, there were 36 transcendent powers. If one were to rank them, the Qin clan would definitely be ranked within the top 3. The cultivation art of the Qin clan had the ability to borrow the power of the great solar sun, twisting the heavens and earth. The great solar universe art was rumored to be one of the ultimate arts of ancient Grand Xia. It possessed boundless might, and when one cultivated it, they would be able to incinerate the heavens and boil the seas. When the great solar universe art was unleashed, anyone who dared to approach it would die. From this, one could very well imagine how tyrannical this cultivation art was. Even in Grand Xia, it would be extremely difficult to find a cultivation art that could contend against it. The Pill Emperor Hall and the Qin clan had a connection, and after they arrived in Ginkgo, the Qin clan had personally welcomed the Pill Emperor Hall and the Hua clan into their residence. When Chen Ran first saw Mo Qingqing, he was momentarily stunned. Not only that, there were many rumors circulating about Mo Qingqing in the various transcendent powers, causing Chen Ran to feel a strong urge to pursue her. However, he also knew that there were many competitors, and the strongest among them were Hua Taishu and Zhan Chen. However, when he heard that Mo Qingqing had no interest in either of them, his thoughts grew even more excited. Hence, he sought out Luo He's disciple, Jingyu, hoping to get to know him better. If not, given Chen Ran's status, he would have disdained to be together with Jingyu. After all, among the disciples of Luo He, Jingyu's talent was extremely ordinary, and he wasn't valued highly by Luo He. Chen Ran's heart was blazing with fire, but Jingyu's heart was filled with worries. Right now, his alchemy cultivation had stagnated, and his master was extremely disappointed in him. He also understood the reason for this, it was all because of Mo Qingqing. He was deeply in love with Mo Qingqing, yet he could only gaze at her in secret. He didn't even dare to confess. And now, there were so many geniuses surrounding Mo Qingqing, all of them lusting after her. Some of them even wanted him to be their matchmaker, yet he couldn't voice out his bitterness. One could very well imagine how terrible Jing Yu's mood was right now. These few days in Ginkgo, he had been drinking himself drunk every night. And yesterday, when he was drunk, he met his brother Jing Feng. Walking to the table, Jing Feng greeted him, to which he casually nodded his head. Jing Yu, this is Luo Huan and Yang Xia. They both wish to enter the Pill Emperor Hall, do you have any ideas? Jing Yu's brother Jing Feng cast a glance at Jing Yu, causing Jing Yu to coldly laugh in his heart. This Jing Feng was truly a silk pants. Instead of focusing on his cultivation, he only knew how to flirt with flowers and grass. And now, he even wanted to use Jing Yu to help him play with women. How laughable. Jing Yu casually swept his gaze over, directly disregarding the female beside Yang Xia. This Yang Xia was actually quite pretty, and was currently casting flirtatious glances at him. Her clothes were revealing, and her figure was extremely alluring. Such a female, in Jing Yu's eyes, was too vulgar. Only Jing Feng would be interested in her. Because Jing Yu frequently sneaked glances at Mo Qingqing, how many people could enter his eyes now? However, when Jing Yu's gaze landed on Luo Huan, his eyes brightened. Luo Huan seemed to be born with an innate charm, giving off an intense sense of attraction. That sexy figure, coupled with her fiery figure, was undoubtedly the epitome of a woman. Although her clothes weren't as exquisite as Yang Xia's, when compared to Yang Xia's, Luo Huan caused a fire to ignite in the hearts of men. With such a beauty, wouldn't it be a joyous thing if I could spend a night with her? Jing Yu stared at the breathtaking countenance of Luo Huan, as a flame ignited in his heart. What sort of character was Chen Ran? Upon seeing the gazes of these people, he instantly understood the situation. He coldly laughed in his heart, he also knew that Jing Yu was secretly in love with Mo Qingqing. This was the reason why Jing Yu had such a frown on his face all the time. This woman is truly beautiful. If it wasn't for the fact that I met Mo Qingqing, I would be willing to accompany her to play. But since Jing Yu has taken a liking to her, I shall grant him his wish. Let him quickly forget about Mo Qingqing and come to help me. Chen Ran smiled. Brother Jing Yu is the disciple of Senior Luo He from the Pill Emperor Hall. Although it would take some effort to bring someone into the Pill Emperor Hall, it shouldn't be too difficult. However, why would he need to help someone he doesn't know? Jing Yu lightly sipped on his wine. Chen Ran's words were exactly what he wanted. I have some treasures on me, I'm willing to offer them all up. Yang Xia initially had some suspicions about Jing Feng's words, but after seeing the demeanor of Chen Ran and Jing Yu, her suspicions dissipated. This was an extremely good opportunity. Brother Jing Yu is a disciple of the Pill Emperor Hall, what use do I have for your treasures? Chen Ran glanced at Yang Xia. How could Yang Xia not understand Chen Ran's meaning? She cast a glance at Jing Yu, these people all exuded an extraordinary aura. If she could enter the Pill Emperor Hall, even if she chose to follow one of them, it wouldn't be a loss. As long as I can give it to you, there's no problem. Yang Xia shyly replied, lowering her head. Her intentions were extremely clear. However, at this moment, Chen Ran shifted his gaze onto Luo Huan. Evidently, his intentions weren't on Yang Xia. This scene caused the smile on Yang Xia's face to stiffen, becoming extremely ugly to behold. How could Luo Huan not understand the current situation? She couldn't help but feel depressed in her heart. Initially, she thought that Jing Feng would only find a swindler. She didn't expect that the other party was actually an extraordinary character. Just a single glance from Chen Ran gave her a huge sense of pressure. No matter what, these people were people from major powers, yet they were no different from commoners. Doing such despicable things outside, but Luo Huan had long since grown accustomed to it. Humans couldn't differentiate between the weak and the weak. These people all had high statuses, hence their sights were set higher. They weren't even interested in a sexy beauty like Yang Xia, but instead, they set their sights on her. I know that my talent is insufficient, I'm not qualified to enter the Pill Emperor Hall. Luo Huan replied with a smile. Although she felt disgust in her heart, she wouldn't fall out with them so easily. She, who was outside, was much more cautious compared to before. It's fine, as long as you are willing to put in some effort, I can guarantee that you will be able to join a transcendent power. Chen Ran lowered his voice. After all, this matter wasn't that glorious, and if his identity was exposed, it wouldn't be good for him. As for the hint he was hinting at, it was already extremely obvious that everyone could hear it. Qin Wentian had been paying attention to the situation over there. When he saw Jing Yu and Chen Ran appearing, he knew that it was impossible for his senior sister to tease them. And now that he heard Chen Ran's words, he couldn't help but to laugh coldly in his heart. My apologies, I have something to do. I'll take my leave first. Luo Huan stood up, her smile still on her face. Chen Ran's eyes narrowed, as a blazing light flickered within. Seeing Luo Huan turning around, he coldly stated, "It's best if you sit down." Luo Huan, sit down. Jing Feng also spoke, his countenance changing. This Chen Ran was obviously not someone easy to deal with. Not only that, Jing Yu already seemed to have some interest in Luo Huan. Luo Huan's countenance changed, only to see that in front of her, Qin Wentian stood up, smiling at her. Luo Huan also smiled as she walked towards Qin Wentian. Why don't you try taking a step forward? Jing Yu was originally in a bad mood, and Mo Qingqing could only secretly fall in love with him. But now, a girl with no background actually dared to throw a tantrum at him. This was akin to stabbing into his sore spot. Sis, there's no need to care about that trash. Qin Wentian smiled as he walked towards Luo Huan. Upon hearing Qin Wentian's words, Luo Huan's smile grew even sweeter. Back in Chu, she already knew that Qin Wentian's actions were extremely cautious. Since he dared to speak in such a manner, it was evident that he wasn't afraid of Jing Yu at all. Not only that, she also noticed that other than Qin Wentian and Fan Lu, there was also Ouyang Guangsheng, Jiang Ting and the rest. Chapter 338. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, a terrifying light flickered in Jing Yu's eyes. Trash, recently, he had been incomparably dispirited. He would often ask himself if his so-called talent had already been lost. Not only did his master doubt him, even his fellow apprentices doubted him. These two words were like a needle piercing into his heart. Slut, scram over here and sit down. If not, I will turn you into my plaything. Jing Yu didn't turn around, but instead coldly spoke. With his back facing Qin Wentian, his handsome countenance contorted. If it was any other time, Jing Yu wouldn't have lost his composure like this. It was just that his mood had been too bad recently, and coupled with the provocation from Qin Wentian, the dark side of his heart had been exposed. When the people in the inn heard this, they all turned their gazes towards Jing Yu, as expressions of interest appeared on their faces. This person seemed to have a certain temperament, but to say such words, it was truly beneath his status. Luo Huan's countenance stiffened, as a cold glint of light flickered in her eyes. Although she had been living a lowly and cautious life these few years, she still maintained her dignity, not allowing herself to be humiliated by others. If Luo he knew that she had to hand over a disciple like you, I wonder how she would feel. A cold intent gushed forth from Qin Wentian. Jing Yu placed his wine cup down and turned around. After which, when he saw Qin Wentian's countenance, his countenance abruptly froze. He wasn't very familiar with Qin Wentian, and had only met him twice. The first time, he and his fellow disciple Yan Qi stared at Qin Wentian, telling him not to dream of being together with Mo Qingcheng. He was merely a jackdaw, and wasn't worthy of her. The second time was outside the Pill Emperor Hall. He found it laughable that Qin Wentian had actually managed to find his way here. But after that, he saw Qin Wentian facing off against Zhang Chen. After that, the rumors regarding Qin Wentian continued to circulate unceasingly. The youngest fourth-ranked grandmaster in the Moon Continent had killed Hua Xiaoyun in a fit of rage for the sake of his lover. In that violent battle, all of his puppets had been destroyed, and he had suffered heavy injuries. But even so, he still managed to hold Xu Wanyu hostage and escape unscathed. In that battle, 3 assassins had fallen, and Zhang Chen's reputation had been questioned. There were even people who suspected that the assassin was really Zhang Chen, and that he had killed his lover before. This was the third time that Qin Wentian stood there, looking at him with a gaze as though he was looking at a lowly ant. This was the gaze he used to look at Qin Wentian in the past. Such a gaze caused his heart to ache even more. "It's you." Jing Yu's gaze was ice-cold, yet he only saw Qin Wentian coldly glancing at him. The sharpness of Qin Wentian's gaze seemed to penetrate right into his mind. Momentarily, a terrifying pressure bore down on him, causing him to feel terror. It was as though a terrifying primordial demon had appeared in front of him, wanting to tear him apart. Boom! Qin Wentian took a step forwards, causing Jing Yu's heart to pound wildly. His entire body was drenched in cold sweat as he tried to move backwards. With a loud thud, the stool he was sitting on directly toppled over, and he himself also fell beneath the table. "If you dare to spout any more vulgar words, I will make you scram out of here," Qin Wentian icily stated. Jing Yu, who had just climbed back up, had a pale countenance. Staring at the numerous gazes directed at him, Jing Yu felt a lump in his chest, causing him to feel extremely unbearable. Pill Emperor Hall's Luo He actually has such a disciple. It's rumored that the youngest disciple of Luo He, Mo Qingcheng, has a heart of agility and is as beautiful as a fairy from the heavens. Yet this young man is actually her senior brother. Unbelievable. Many in the crowd shook their heads and sighed. Qin Wentian didn't bother with these voices. He walked towards Luo Huan, and as he stared at this sexy and beautiful senior apprentice sister of his, he stretched out his hands and gently caressed her face. "Sis, you've lost weight. Smelly brat, how dare you take advantage of your senior sister." Luo Huan had a warm smile on her face. This fellow had truly grown up. Now, he could already protect her. He was no longer the young man who needed her protection in the past. "Who asked senior sister to be so beautiful? It would be a waste if I didn't take advantage of you." Qin Wentian laughed. After which, he gave Luo Huan a tight hug. It had nothing to do with the feelings between a man and a woman, it was pure familial love. He had long since treated Luo Huan like Qin Yao, as his own elder sister. "Oi, your sister can't breathe." Luo Huan couldn't help but to be speechless when she felt Qin Wentian's immense strength. The two of them separated, and Fatty Fan Lu walked over. He extended his arms towards Luo Huan as he greeted, "Senior sister." "Damn Fatty, your figure is even better than before." Luo Huan giggled as she looked at Fatty. Momentarily, Fatty pulled a long face as he stated, "Senior sister, you can't be so biased. When you have a figure like Wentian's, maybe I will give you a chance." Luo Huan giggled, causing Fatty to instantly feel despair. "Sis, let's go over and sit." Qin Wentian pulled Luo Huan along and prepared to leave, only to hear Chen Ran, who had been silent all this while, suddenly speaking, "Wait a minute." Chen Ran had been observing everything from the side. Qin Wentian and his group all exuded an extraordinary aura. This was especially so for Ouyang Guangsheng and Jiang Ting, all of them should be from major powers. As for Qin Wentian, he seemed to have the aura of a boorish person, letting his emotions affect his decisions. However, his strength shouldn't be weak at all. However, no matter who they were, in Ginku, in front of his Qin clan, even if they were a dragon, they would still have to kneel. This moment was undoubtedly the best opportunity to make Jingyu feel gratitude towards him. No matter who you are, come over here and apologize in front of my brother Jingyu. Chen Ran slammed his palms on the table, his voice filled with a hint of coldness. At the side, Yang Xia and the rest had always thought that Jingyu's identity as a disciple of the Pill Emperor Hall would be useful. But now, she could tell that Chen Ran's identity was even more shocking compared to Jingyu. If not, after Jingyu was humiliated by Qin Wentian, he wouldn't have dared to stand out. Only now did Qin Wentian turn his gaze to Chen Ran. Earlier, he had seen Chen Ran's impoliteness, but this place was after all Ginku, and he didn't want to stir up trouble. Hence, he decided to let go of the matter of teaching Jingyu a lesson, but who would have thought that Chen Ran wouldn't let him off so easily? Sis, let's go. Qin Wentian merely glanced at Chen Ran before pulling Luo Huan to his table, completely ignoring Chen Ran's words. Chen Ran continued slamming his palms on the table, his countenance akin to a blazing sun, causing the surrounding air to heat up. Those who cultivated the Great Solar Universe art were all core members of the Qin clan. From the look in Chen Ran's eyes, one could tell that he had cultivated the Great Solar Universe art before. If he didn't have enough confidence, he wouldn't have pursued a character like Imo Qingcheng. The great solar flame in Chen Ran's eyes was clearly seen by Ouyang Guangsheng. When Chen Ran was speaking, Ouyang Guangsheng had already noticed him. When they arrived at the table, Ouyang Guangsheng stated, "He's from the great solar Qin clan of Ginku." Qin clan. Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened. With regards to the transcendent powers of the Grand Xia Empire, he already had a rough understanding of them. On the way to Ginku, Ouyang Guangsheng had already introduced them to him. The Great Solar Qin clan was an extremely ancient aristocrat clan that had existed since the era of ancient Grand Xia. Not only that, they were one of the 9 grand clans, one of the 9 most powerful clans under the ancient Grand Xia Empire. They cultivated the tyrannical Great Solar Universe art. Upon hearing the name of the Great Solar Qin clan, the first thing that came to Qin Wentian's mind was the scene he saw in the Heavenly Steel. Those 9 people plotted to conquer the world, splitting the divine steel into 9 parts, allowing each of them to wield one of the 9 ultimate arts. The Great Solar Qin clan was probably the descendant of one of those 9 people. Even now, they had already become a terrifying existence. Chen Ran's eyes flickered as he stared at Ouyang Guangsheng. Ouyang Guangsheng was able to tell with a single glance that he was from the Great Solar Qin clan. "Who might you be?" Chen Ran indifferently asked. "Ouyang aristocrat clan, Ouyang Guangsheng." Ouyang Guangsheng didn't bother to conceal his identity and directly stated. His words caused the people in the inn to sigh in amazement. Today, the drunken Immortal residence was bustling with activity. The Great Solar Qin clan, Ouyang aristocrat clan and Pill Emperor Hall actually appeared here at the same time. However, such a matter was something that the crowd loved to see. It would be best if they could have a proper clash and see which clan was stronger. Ouyang Guangsheng. Chen Ran's eyes flickered. He had naturally heard of this name before. Ouyang Guangsheng from the Ouyang aristocrat clan was one of the top names of the transcendent powers. What about him? Chen Ran turned his gaze onto Qin Wentian. "He's my brother, Qin Wentian. Today, I'm here with my fiancée Jiang Ting and a few other brothers. I hope you won't disturb our mood." Ouyang Guangsheng indifferently replied. Chen Ran's lips curled up in a cold smile. "But my mood has already been disturbed. Not only that, he suddenly launched a sneak attack against my friend. I'm only asking him to apologize, isn't that too much?" Ouyang Guangsheng understood that Chen Ran didn't want to give him any face. Since this was the case, there was no need for him to say anything else. He turned his gaze away, completely disregarding Chen Ran. Chen Ran placed his palms on the table. Instantly, a terrifying heat gushed forth, incinerating the entire table into nothingness. Not only that, even the wine cups on the table were melted into liquid, incinerated by the terrifying heat. The people seated at the table hurriedly retreated. The great solar radiance in Chen Ran's eyes grew even more terrifying as a terrifying intent emanated from him. If I take the initiative to attack, not only would I have to apologize, would also want that woman. Chen Ran's voice contained traces of coldness. He was a member of the great solar Qin clan, why would he need to give face to Ouyang Guangsheng? Not only that, he wouldn't take the initiative to offend Ouyang Guangsheng. Since Qin Wentian and that woman weren't from the Ouyang aristocrat clan, he could make a move against them. Elder sis, wait a moment. Qin Wentian stared at the stiffened expression on Luo Huan's face. After which, he put down his wine cup and stood up, walking towards Chen Ran. Instantly, a terrifying aura gushed forth from him. His countenance turned incomparably demonic, and his eyes caused the hearts of those who looked at him to tremble. You have some strength, but a cultivation base at the 7th level of Yuanfu is still insufficient. Chen Ran slowly stood up. The people in the surroundings hurriedly evaded him, and all the tables and chairs that got too close to him were instantly incinerated into ashes. The Great Solar Universe art allowed those who cultivated it to possess the Great Solar Universe energy, capable of incinerating the heavens and boiling the seas. When the Great Solar Universe art was unleashed, anyone who got too close to it would die. Although Chen Ran didn't have that kind of power, those who got too close to him would still feel their hearts trembling. As for the aura he exuded, it was at the 8th level of Yuanfu. Boom! Chen Ran took a step forward, leaving a deep footprint beneath his feet. His palms also turned red as a terrifying heat gushed forth, gushing towards Qin Wentian. On account of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, I'll give you one last chance. Chen Ran's eyes flickered with a terrifying great solar radiance, akin to the sun itself. Chapter 339. The people in the inn retreated even further away, some even rushing out of the inn. The cultivation art of the great solar Qin clan was extremely tyrannical. If one's strength wasn't high enough, they would be caught in the crossfire and be corroded by the great solar universe art. This cultivation art could be ranked within the top 10 in the entire Grand Xia Empire. It was an extremely terrifying art. Let's go out and fight. Qin Wentian indifferently spoke. Chen Ran's lips curled up in a cold smile. This person had a cultivation base at the 7th level of Yuanfu, yet he actually dared to accept the challenge. It had been a long time since he, Chen Ran, had met such an interesting person. The core members of his Qin clan all cultivated the great solar universe art, and all of them had the ability to fight above their cultivation level, let alone against someone a level lower than them. I'll grant you your wish. Chen Ran's palms grabbed out in the air, and an instant later, a sun-like hole appeared, shattering the inn. Chen Ran's silhouette soared up into the skies, vanishing from sight. Bzzz, Qin Wentian's demonic qi soared up into the skies, and he too vanished. The silhouettes of the people in the inn flickered as they sped outside, not wanting to miss out on this battle. Ouyang Guangsheng, Luo Huan and the rest also sped out from the windows, dashing outside. In the air, Qin Wentian's demonic qi towered to the heavens. Behind Chen Ran, there was a blazing sun that cascaded downwards, as though it wanted to be used by him. The spectators from afar all had expressions of shock on their faces as they stared at the sky. Great solar universe art, it's someone from the Qin clan. Chen Ran from the great solar Qin clan can be considered one of the more outstanding ones. Who dares to challenge Chen Ran with a cultivation base at the 7th level of Yuanfu? There's going to be a good show to watch. Chen Ran had a smile on his face as he swept his gaze over to Qin Wentian. A terrifying surge of energy circulated around his body, and a scorching heat radiated from his palms. His smile contained hints of mockery. Leaving aside the fact that Qin Wentian wasn't someone from the Ouyang aristocrat clan, even if he was, how could his great solar Qin clan fear the Ouyang aristocrat clan? Bzzz. A scorching gale swept through the air as Chen Ran lunged towards Qin Wentian. His speed was incomparably fast, and it was as though he was carrying the weight of a blazing sun on his back. With this strike, he would let Qin Wentian understand how powerful the great solar universe energy was. Qin Wentian clenched his fist as he similarly stepped out. Demonic chi enveloped his arms as a terrifying palm imprint abruptly blasted out. Both of them didn't use any techniques to evade, they simply used brute force to clash against each other. Evidently, both of them were extremely confident in their own strength. The two silhouettes in the air collided in an instant. Their terrifying palms collided with each other, and with a thunderous boom, demonic chi and scorching chi transformed into a terrifying storm, sweeping out in all directions. It was as though there were waves of smoke and fog filling the air. The two silhouettes in the air clashed against each other, their palms colliding with each other. A thunderous sound echoed out as the demonic chi and scorching heat transformed into a terrifying tempest, engulfing everything in its path. Great Solar Universe Art. Qin Wentian's palms were shrouded in a layer of pitch-black chi. A terrifying heat gushed into his arms, transforming into incomparably scorching great solar flames, wanting to destroy his arms. Great Solar Universe Art. An expression of shock flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes. There weren't many people at the 8th level of Yuanfu who could injure him, yet this great solar universe art could actually threaten him. From this, one could see how tyrannical it was. However, in this exchange of blows, Qin Wentian didn't retreat even half a step. Evidently, he had the upper hand. He turned his gaze onto Chen Ran, as a cold light flickered in his eyes. He mocked, 8th level of Yuanfu, is that all you've got? The hearts of the spectators trembled. Chen Ran was a level higher than Qin Wentian, and not only that, he was also a member of the Great Solar Qin clan, and had cultivated the Great Solar Universe art. Jing Yu's countenance was extremely fascinating to behold. The young man he had once looked down on actually had such terrifying strength, trampling over him with ease. Your strength isn't bad, but if this is all you've got, it's still insufficient. How could Chen Ran admit defeat upon seeing the sarcasm in Qin Wentian's eyes? His astral soul erupted forth as the great solar astral soul shone resplendently. Chen Ran's entire body was enveloped by the light of the great solar astral soul, causing the spectators to feel a piercing pain in their eyes. Powerful, this is the great solar illumination of the great solar universe art. Coupled with his astral soul, the might of this combination is incomparably terrifying. I wonder how many times stronger Qin Wentian's aura is now. Those from the Great Solar Qin clan are too terrifying. It was rare for the spectators to see a member of the Great Solar Qin clan fighting outside, and all of them had expressions of excitement on their faces. The great solar illumination of the Great Solar Universe art, coupled with Chen Ran's strength, could easily incinerate opponents of the same level. Even Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to get close to Chen Ran. You want to receive another palm strike from me? Chen Ran coldly laughed as the great solar illumination radiating from him grew even more resplendent. The general of a defeated army. Qin Wentian's body was cloaked in demonic armor as he transformed into his demonic form. The great solar might radiating from Chen Ran was too overwhelming, and if he didn't do so, his robes and body wouldn't be able to withstand the terrifying heat. Chen Ran coldly snorted, stepping out in the air as the two of them neared each other. Chen Ran blasted out with his palms, and in an instant, a tyrannical sun manifested, wanting to incinerate Qin Wentian. The demonic chi on Qin Wentian's arms towered up into the sky as the will of his dual mandates gushed forth. At this instant it was unknown how terrifying his strength was. Shattering void. Qin Wentian blasted out with his palms, exuding a majestic aura. At the instant their palms collided, the demonic armor on Qin Wentian's arm was incinerated. His demonic body was like a terrifying sun, as the tyrannical might of the great solar illumination frenziedly gushed into his body. However, at the same time, Chen Ran's body was once again flung through the air. This time around, he groaned in agony as his countenance instantly paled. Clutching his chest, he coughed out a mouthful of blood as his internal organs shuddered violently, as though they were on the verge of shattering. The towering might of Qin Wenqian's attack landed on Qin Wenqian's arm, yet it directly penetrated into his body. The tyrannical might of the attack could disregard all defenses. Boom! A terrifying demonic qi towered up into the sky, the scorching heat from Qin Wenqian's body was expelled. His silhouette was as swift as the wind, and this time around, he wasn't in a passive position. He directly launched an attack towards Chen Ran. Chen Ran's countenance stiffened, but he braced himself and accepted the attack. The light of the great solar illumination erupted forth once more, and each beam of light seemed capable of penetrating through everything. Qin Wenqian directly blasted out with his ancient imprint, as the roars of dragons shook the heavens. This time around, Qin Wenqian's attack was akin to a raging tempest. The spectators only saw a tyrannical qi sweeping through the air, as deafening rumbles shook their eardrums, incomparably terrifying. Chen Ran unceasingly coughed out blood, yet Qin Wenqian didn't give him any chance to evade. Qin Wenqian stuck close to him and continued his frenzied attacks. Finally, with a deafening boom, Chen Ran's body was smashed down by the tyrannical might of Qin Wenqian's attack, slamming into a building. Cough, cough. Chen Ran coughed out a mouthful of blood as his aura grew increasingly weak. The light radiating from him was no longer as dazzling as before. Qin Wenqian stood in the air, staring down at him as he spat out two words, "How weak." As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wenqian flicked his sleeves and departed, leaving behind Chen Ran, who had lost all face, his countenance as pale as paper. He was Chen Ran from the great solar Chen clan. He used the great solar universe art, yet he was suppressed by someone with a lower cultivation base than him, to the point where he couldn't even retaliate. The words "how weak" resounded in the air, staring at the countless gazes on him. Chen Ran felt as though his heart was bleeding. With a howl of rage, Chen Ran soared up into the skies, leaving this place. If he stayed here, he would only lose face. And at this moment, the spectators were all guessing who this Qin Wenqian was. His attacks were actually so tyrannical, he definitely had the qualifications to contend for the heavenly fate rankings. Jing Yu's countenance was incomparably complicated. His friends, as well as Yang Xia and the rest, didn't even dare to breathe loudly as their hearts trembled. Such a character was actually the junior apprentice brother of Luo Huan. Luckily, they didn't commit any grave mistakes, or this person would definitely not spare them. Qin Wenqian didn't even spare a glance at Jing Yu and the rest. He returned to the side of Luo Huan, only to see Luo Huan smiling at him, her charming eyes flashing with a strange light. This fellow was already so powerful. If you return to Chu, I'm afraid no one would be able to contend against you. You're not even 20 yet, right? Luo Huan sighed in her heart. If I don't work hard in my cultivation, how can I protect my senior apprentice sister? Qin Wenqian joked. Your tongue is getting smoother and smoother. Luo Huan laughed, still hugging Qin Wenqian's arm just like before, causing Fatty Fan Lo to be filled with jealousy and envy. At this moment, Qin Wenqian's brows twitched as he spoke to Ouyang Guangsheng. Ouyang, bring them back first, I still have something I need to do. You want to follow him? Ouyang Guangsheng asked in a low voice. He knew that Qin Wenqian's girlfriend, Mo Qingsheng, was in the Pill Emperor Hall. Now that Jing Yu had appeared, how could he not understand Qin Wenqian's intentions? Emichim, I'll go take a look. Don't worry, I won't be impulsive, I'll only take a look. Qin Wenqian lightly nodded his head. Little Lu, bring them back. I'll go with you. Even if we're seen by those from the Pill Emperor Hall, they wouldn't dare to do anything to me, Ouyang Guangsheng stated. Qin Wenqian contemplated for a moment before nodding his head. At this moment, Jing Yu's mood was incomparably downcast. He didn't have the mood to stay here any longer. He directly flew towards the temporary lodgings of the Pill Emperor Hall. The Qin clan residence in Ginkgo was vast and majestic, akin to a royal palace. Within the great Solar Qin clan, there was an independent villa, the surroundings elegant and comfortable. Jing Yu returned to this villa. Based on his strength, it was naturally impossible for him to discover that Qin Wentian was following him. Outside the Qin clan residence, Qin Wentian sat with his eyes closed, his head lowered. In the center of his brows, a bright light flickered, as though there was a third eye there. A terrifying sense of perception enveloped Jing Yu. Wherever Jing Yu went, Qin Wentian could easily track him. Upon arriving at the villa, he saw Jing Yu's gaze fixed on a certain building. In his eyes, there were traces of anticipation, as well as traces of bewilderment. Qin Wentian's powerful perception extended towards the building, slowly seeping in. Not long after, his perception entered an elegant room. Within the room, a white-robed maiden with a countenance so beautiful that it could topple empires sat cross-legged. Perspiration could be seen dripping down her face, and in front of her, a blazing hot cauldron floated in the air. A seven-colored flame flickered beneath the cauldron, as a mysterious aura permeated the air. Qing. Qin Wentian's heart pounded violently as his perception fluctuated. It had been a few years since they last met. Finally, he saw her again. At the same time, Mo Qingqing's countenance changed. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light as she stared in the direction of the voice. Who? Chapter 340. Mo Qingqing's entire body was enveloped by a formless halo, exuding a holy aura. With the heart of 7 apertures, her perception was also extremely terrifying. If not, she wouldn't have been able to detect Qin Wentian's heart sense. Both Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing used their hearts to sense. At the instant Mo Qingqing turned her head, Qin Wentian felt as though she was looking at him. Warmth flowed through his heart. She was still the same as before, in fact, she was even more beautiful than before. There was a holy light radiating from her, so dazzling. Not only that, she seemed to have matured a little, and that countenance of hers was even more resilient than before. Mo Qingqing seemed to have sensed something, her heart involuntarily pounding violently. She could feel the warmth radiating from Qin Wentian as she murmured, "Wentian, is that you?" This gentle voice was filled with boundless longing. Qin Wentian wanted nothing more than to throw his head back and roar in rage. It was him, he was right outside the Qin clan. "Qingqing, what's wrong?" A silhouette flickered as it stepped into Mo Qingqing's room. This person was none other than Mo Qingqing's master, Luo He. Her brows were slightly furrowed, as though she could sense that someone was spying on them. But in that instant, Qin Wentian retracted his perception, and everything returned to normal. A trace of suspicion flashed through Luo He's heart, but she soon understood. Most probably, it was the perception of an expert from the Qin clan who had inadvertently passed by here. "Master." Mo Qingqing felt that sense of perception vanish, and a sense of disappointment and frustration appeared in her heart, as though something was missing. "You're letting your imagination run wild again." Given his strength, how could he possibly extend his perception all the way here? "It's still unknown whether he will come to Ginkgo or not," Luo He indifferently stated. The him she was referring to was naturally Qin Wentian. "He will come, I can sense it." Mo Qingqing seriously replied. "Not only that, he won't be too far away from me." "I don't know what you're thinking about. It's already been a few years, yet you still can't let go of the relationship you had when you were young." "You can find any outstanding man you want," Luo He helplessly stated. "Irreplaceable." Mo Qingqing shook her head. Every time she discussed with her master, there wouldn't be any results. "Master, do you still remember the agreement between us?" Mo Qingqing's beautiful eyes stared at Luo He, as though this matter was extremely important to her. Of course I remember. Back then you insisted on going out to look for him, but I didn't allow it. In fact, I even wanted him to vanish from this world. At that time, the two of us made a promise. I promised you that I wouldn't deal with him, and you also promised me that you wouldn't look for him and would focus on your cultivation. Luo He calmly spoke. She didn't want anyone to disturb Mo Qingqing's cultivation. What I promised you was that before the end of this year, I wouldn't meet him again. Even if I meet him, we would only be strangers. Mo Qingqing shook her head. Are you that confident in him? Luo He indifferently replied, there's not much time left. Zhan Chen's strength is already sufficient to contend for the top 3 rankers of the Heavenly Fate rankings. If he can defeat Zhan Chen in this ranking battle, I'll agree to no longer restrict you. But if he fails, you'd better obediently continue your cultivation. It's good that Master remembers. Only then did a smile appear on Mo Qingqing's face. He would definitely be able to do it. Luo He had given her too much pressure, hence she could only make this agreement with Luo He. Firstly, it was to ensure that those from the Pill Emperor Hall wouldn't act against Qin Wentian. Secondly, it was because she was filled with hope for Qin Wentian. If Qin Wentian was truly defeated, she would be willing to continue waiting until Qin Wentian's strength surpassed that of the Pill Emperor Hall. At that time, who would be able to obstruct her? Right now, her only wish was for Qin Wentian's safety. Luo He's eyes flickered with anger as she glanced at the floating cauldron in the room. You're still thinking of concocting that kind of pill? Master, there's no need for you to worry about this. Mo Qingqing lightly shook her head. However, at this moment, there was a commotion outside. Luo He's silhouette flickered as she cast her gaze downwards. Jingyu, what happened? Jingyu replied, Master, there seems to be someone spying on our Qin clan. Emichem. Luo He's brows furrowed as she floated up in the air. Her gaze pierced through an extremely long distance, landing on the area outside the Qin clan. Instantly, her gaze froze. Outside the Qin clan, there were 2 groups of people facing off against each other. Other than those from the Qin clan, there were 2 other young men. With her eyes, she could naturally tell who one of them was. That young man of the past had undergone such a great transformation. Not only that, was that sense of perception she sensed earlier really his? Behind Luo He, Mo Qingqing's silhouette appeared. Her gaze similarly stared into the distance as her heart pounded violently. She felt as though time had come to a standstill. Over there was a gaze that penetrated through everything, landing on her. In that instant it was as though space itself could no longer obstruct the collision of their hearts. He smiled. His smile was exceptionally radiant, radiant like the sun. She smiled. Her smile was exceptionally sweet and gentle. He had come to see her. That smile of his made her feel as though she had returned to the past, back to the innocent and pure days of her youth. Time was unable to obstruct the purest of emotions. Mo Qingqing wanted to step out, yet Luo He interjected, have you forgotten our agreement? As the sound of Luo He's voice faded, Mo Qingqing's countenance drastically changed as she abruptly halted her steps. Qin Wentian couldn't help but have a strange expression on his face when he saw the change in Mo Qingqing's countenance. What's wrong with her? Why was she still smiling earlier, but in the blink of an eye, she had an expression of worry on her face. After which, Qin Wentian discovered that Luo He and Mo Qingqing had already disappeared from his sight. They had left, and didn't walk towards him. A sense of disappointment flashed through Qin Wentian's heart, but soon after, he smiled again as he murmured, as long as you are safe and sound, then the skies will always be clear. Seeing that Mo Qingqing was still as beautiful as ever, and her smile was still as sweet as ever, Qin Wentian's heart finally relaxed. Junior Ouyang Guangsheng pays his respects to the seniors of the Qin clan. At this moment, Ouyang Guangsheng's gaze shifted onto those from the Qin clan as he spoke. Although he had been discovered, he was neither servile nor overbearing. The countenance of the person in the lead froze for a moment before he smiled, so it's nephew Ouyang. However, what are you doing outside my Qin clan? If you wanted to pay a visit, why didn't you inform us beforehand? I was just about to pay a visit, but who would have thought that my friend would meet an old friend? Ouyang Quanxing smiled. Oh, your friend's old friend is in my Qin clan. That middle-aged man glanced at Qin Wentian who was standing beside Ouyang Quanxing. I won't hide it from seniors, my friend's ex-girlfriend is named Imo Qinqing. Currently, she's in the Qin clan. Ouyang Quanxing laughed, his words causing Qin Wentian to be speechless. This fellow was truly not afraid of blowing things up. Indeed, the countenances of those from the Qin clan changed. After which, that middle-aged man casually added, if that's the case, why hasn't Imo Qinqing come out yet? Nephew Ouyang, please don't joke around. It's up to senior to believe it or not. Also, the reason why I'm here today is because my second uncle has instructed me to pass on a message. My Ouyang aristocrat clan has always admired the might of the great solar universe art of the Qin clan, and if there's an opportunity, we would definitely like to exchange our insights. I wonder if there's an opportunity for the younger generations of both clans to interact with each other. Ouyang Quanxing quickly changed the topic. How could this be the intention of his second uncle? It was obviously his own decision to make. However, since his spying was discovered today, he naturally had to give a reason. Although his words were polite, there was a hint of provocation in his words. He was sure that the other party would immediately forget about the earlier incident, and wouldn't make things difficult for them because of what happened earlier. Hee. The countenance of that middle-aged man changed slightly, before he laughed coldly, since brother Ouyang wishes to experience it, I'll have to trouble nephew Ouyang to pass on a message for me. I'll make the necessary arrangements and send someone to inform the Ouyang aristocrat clan. I hope that when the time comes, the Ouyang aristocrat clan won't break our promise. Of course. Since I've already passed on the message, this junior will take his leave first. Ouyang Quanxing bowed slightly as he signaled to Qin Wentian with his eyes, before the two of them departed. Those from the Qin clan couldn't help but snort coldly as they watched Ouyang Quanxing and Ouyang Quanxing depart. Wanting to experience the great solar universe art of their Qin clan. Since that's the case, they would grant their wish. He also wanted to see what sort of characters the younger generations from the Ouyang aristocrat clan were. At this moment, from within the Qin clan, a silhouette flew out with lightning speed, akin to a beam of golden light, chasing after Qin Wentian and Ouyang Quanxing. Zhan Chen. Those from the Qin clan all had strange expressions on their faces. Why was Zhan Chen chasing after them? Very quickly, Qin Wentian and Ouyang Quanxing discovered that there was someone chasing after them. Involuntarily, they halted in the air, and upon seeing Zhan Chen, Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened. Currently, Zhan Chen's eyes flickered with a terrifying golden light. His entire body was shimmering with a golden luster, exuding a terrifying sharpness. Zhan Chen, it seems like you've really cultivated the gold element ancient scroll. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered. The current Zhan Chen looked somewhat similar to the golden armored warrior from back then. Since you can't protect it, I'll naturally cultivate it. A terrifying light flickered in Zhan Chen's eyes, penetrating through everything, directly piercing towards Qin Wentian. Back then, you insulted my reputation, and even misrepresented a deer as a horse, saying that the assassin was me. If I don't kill you, where would my reputation go? As the sound of his voice faded, Zhan Chen advanced forward step by step. With every step he took, a terrifying sharpness could be felt pressing down on Qin Wentian and Ouyang Quanxing. Perfection boundary of the first level of the mandate of metal, and perfection boundary of the first level of the mandate of sword. Ouyang Quanxing's countenance stiffened. A long time ago, Zhan Chen was ranked number 11 on the Heavenly Fate rankings. Now, his strength had grown even stronger, and it seemed that he had also cultivated a powerful cultivation art. Let's go. Ouyang Quanxing spoke to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered as he nodded his head. The two of them sped through the air, speeding away. Zhan Chen, who had cultivated an ascendance cultivation art, exuded a demonic aura, as well as an intense sense of danger. How could Zhan Chen spare Qin Wentian? His silhouette was like the wind as he soared through the air, akin to a bolt of golden lightning. 3 silhouettes sped through the air. Just as they passed by the top of a building, a black-robed figure suddenly descended from the void. There was a loud rumble, and the entire building seemed to shake. Emichem. The countenances of Zhan Chen, Qin Wentian and the rest froze. Qin Wentian turned his head, only to see that the black-robed silhouette was incomparably mysterious. His entire body was shrouded in black robes, and his figure was extremely skinny, yet he gave off an intense sense of danger. A terrifying devilish might emanated from him, and with him as the center, the air around him seemed to have transformed into a black hue. Zhan Chen halted his steps as he stared in front of him. A pair of ice-cold eyes stared at him. That pair of devilish eyes seemed to originate from the depths of purgatory, incomparably terrifying. Just a single glance was enough to cause one's entire body to shiver. Devil art. Zhan Chen's countenance stiffened. This was a forbidden cultivation art. In the entire Grand Xia, there shouldn't be any devil cultivators. Who was this person? Chapter 341. Mo Qingqing returned to her room. After Luo He's advice failed, Mo Qingqing began to concoct pills again. The cauldron floated in the air, and the scorching heat of the flames didn't seep out at all. Concocting pills was different from forging weapons. Concocting pills did not require flames that were too strong. One only needed to have perfect control over the fire, and not a single mistake could be made. Forging weapons, on the other hand, required extremely strong flames because they needed to smelt the materials. This was especially so when it came to forging high-level divine weapons. The stronger the materials, the harder it was to melt. The most crucial part of forging divine weapons was the divine imprints. The most crucial part of alchemy was one's perception. Although it seemed simple, it was actually extremely difficult. Not only that, some people's perception was innate. Some people were born with extremely sensitive perception, and were proficient in alchemy. For example, Mo Qingqing's heart of 7 apertures. Concocting a medicinal pill required too many combinations of medicinal ingredients, and the dosage had to be incomparably accurate. Every time the ingredients were combined, the sequence and the composition had to be guaranteed to be flawless. Otherwise, it would result in the medicinal pill's grade being subpar. In fact, there were even times when a mistake was made, and a medicinal pill that was meant to save lives could turn into a deadly poison. Mo Qingqing's perception had always been within the cauldron, quietly waiting. For the sake of concocting this pill, she had failed many times. The current her was already a 4th-ranked alchemist, which meant that she could concoct 4th-ranked pills with a success rate of 20%. However, for the sake of concocting this 3rd-ranked pill, she had already failed 27 times. This was because the pill she wanted to concoct was a taboo for alchemists, the limit break pill. As the name implied, limit break pill was a pill created for the purpose of breaking through to the next level. In the cultivation of the martial Tao, one step at a time, one footprint at a time. This was the truth. Refining pills was also a kind of balance. The pills you refined could be used to strengthen the physique, improve the meridians, or even powerful pills that could change the cultivator's physique, or even resurrect the dead. However, the limit break pill was a pill that defied the logic of cultivation, breaking the equilibrium in the world. It would allow Wuxia to forcefully break through to the next level, and was known as a taboo for alchemists. It required the blood and sweat of an alchemist with a unique physique to concoct it. Even if the person who concocted it succeeded, their vitality would be severely damaged, and the failure rate was exceedingly high. Hence, although the effects of the limit break pill were heaven-defying, very few people would actually attempt to concoct it. If it weren't for the fact that Mo Qingqing had prepared a large number of pills to replenish her vitality, she would have long since lost all her vitality. After a long period of time, Mo Qingqing could feel the changes within the cauldron. A hint of redness flashed past her countenance. This time around, the smelting of the medicinal ingredients was exceptionally perfect. This time, we must succeed. Mo Qingqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a resolute light. Instantly, a thin line of blood appeared on her wrist. Her right hand pressed against the position of her heart, and instantly, her heart's blood was forced out. Instantly, her countenance paled, and a drop of blood containing an immense amount of spiritual energy dripped down from her wrist, falling into the cauldron. Mo Qingqing's countenance was as pale as a sheet of paper. She retrieved a few medicinal pills and directly swallowed them, as a look of determination flashed in her eyes. She would definitely succeed, she definitely would. She was very clear on how strong Zhan Chen was. Although she believed in Qin Wentian, the disparity between the two of them was too great. He had put in so much effort, unceasingly making up for it. How could she remain unmoved? Zhan Chen, Qin Wentian, and Ouyang Guangsheng all stared at the black-robed figure, their eyes flickering with sharpness. The cultivation of this person wasn't very high, only at the 8th level of Yuanfu. However, the devilish might he exuded gave off a sense of terror. Who might you be? Zhan Chen coldly asked as he stared at the black-robed figure. Devil arts were already extremely rare, and not only that, they were forbidden arts. As long as they appeared, they would definitely be extremely terrifying. However, very few people dared to cultivate devil arts. Devil arts were tyrannical, and it was extremely easy for them to devour the user. It was one of the easiest cultivation arts to fail. Once there was the slightest mistake, it was very possible for the user to enter into qi deviation. The devil energy would devour the user, and in the best-case scenario, the user would lose their humanity and become a killing machine. In the worst-case scenario, the user would directly explode and die. Not only that, even if one succeeded in cultivating it, they would still have to go through a terrifying amount of pain. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to endure it. In order to obtain the power of the devil path, one had to endure its tyrannical nature. Hence, if one didn't have great determination and willpower, they would never choose to cultivate devil arts. Even if a devil art was placed in front of them, they would still hesitate. There was an ancient saying in Grand Xia, once one entered the devil path, there would be no regrets in this lifetime. This meaning was that for those who cultivated the devil path, there was no turning back. In the future, if they chose to cultivate the devil path, they could never regret it. If not, they would die without a burial ground. Devil cultivators, on the path to becoming stronger, had to endure pain that was 10 times or even 100 times greater than that of ordinary people. However, the power gained by devil cultivators would also surpass that of ordinary people. Hence, even though Zhan Chen's cultivation base was at the peak of the 9th level of Yuanfu, a hint of trepidation could be seen in the depths of his eyes. No one dared to underestimate the combat prowess of a forbidden devil cultivator. Now that this person had appeared in Ginkgo, there was no doubt that he would definitely contend for the heavenly fate rankings. It seemed like the ranking battle this time around would be extremely brutal. Scram! The voice of the black-robed figure was hoarse, it was impossible to tell if it was a man or a woman. His eyes were still fixed on Zhan Chen, and the coldness in his gaze was so cold that it could penetrate the hearts of those who saw it. It's so rare to meet a devil cultivator, how can I not fight? Zhan Chen's entire body shimmered with a golden light, as a terrifying sharpness flickered in his eyes. Although his opponent was a devil cultivator, he was already at the 9th level of Yuanfu, and he had already comprehended the gold element ancient art. His entire body was as tough as metal, there was no need to fear a battle. He wanted to see how strong this devil cultivator was. As the sound of his voice faded, Zhan Chen stepped out, advancing towards the black-robed figure. The devilish might exuding from the black-robed figure intensified, as a terrifying cold light flickered in her eyes. An extremely cold intent gushed forth, enveloping Zhang Chen, causing his countenance to stiffen. Devil arts are extremely tyrannical, and yet this person's devil art actually contains an extreme qi. What kind of cultivation art is this? Zhang Chen slashed out with his sword in the air, his sword light piercing through the air, incomparably sharp. The black-robed figure waved her palms, as a tyrannical devil imprint blasted out. With a thunderous boom, the sharp sword was annihilated together with the terrifying devil palm. Zhang Chen placed his finger in front of him, and in an instant, the sound of sword whistling filled the air. Golden rays of light shot out in all directions, as numerous terrifying ancient swords manifested. Zhang Chen pointed his finger forward, as 9 beams of sword light shot out simultaneously, exuding a terrifying might. At this moment, he was also probing how strong the black-robed figure was. The black-robed figure continued waving her palms, as a pitch-black great heavenly devil palm blasted out, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. After destroying the 9 swords, the black-robed figure stepped out, moving towards Zhang Chen. How tyrannical were devil cultivators? How could they passively endure attacks? This black-robed figure had a skinny frame, yet at this moment, when she unleashed her devil art, she exuded a terrifying might, akin to a devil king descending from the heavens. Another palm strike blasted out, as a surge of annihilation energy gushed forth, heading straight for Zhang Chen. At the same time, the yin qi corroded Zhang Chen's entire body, causing the space around Zhang Chen to be completely enveloped by it. Devil arts are indeed powerful, Ouyang Guangxing praised. Being able to fight against Zhang Chen with a cultivation base at the 8th level of Yuanfu, one could very well imagine how powerful this black-robed figure was. Qin Wentian lightly nodded his head. At this moment, he was filled with bewilderment as he asked, "This person appeared to help us obstruct Zhang Chen. Do you know him?" Ouyang Guangxing lightly shook his head, "I don't know any devil cultivators." "What about you?" Qin Wentian pondered for a moment before shaking his head. It was impossible for him to be acquainted with devil cultivators. Zhang Chen's eyes turned golden as the aura he exuded grew increasingly terrifying. Qin Wentian and Ouyang Guangxing only saw a layer of golden armor enveloping his body. Both of his hands folded into ancient seals, and in an instant, the keening of swords could be heard as golden rays of light cascaded downwards, enveloping his entire body. Numerous resplendent golden swords floated around him, as though wanting to punish the heavens and earth. Each and every one of those swords exuded a terrifying might. An expression of shock appeared on Qin Wentian's face. Was this the might of the gold element ancient scroll? Rumble. A towering demonic cloud appeared in the air, as the surrounding space turned dark. The spectators from afar gradually turned their gazes over, their hearts filled with terror. Who was it? Who was it that cultivated the forbidden devil art? In the hands of the black-robed figure, a terrifying devil king's spear appeared. Terrifying demonic clouds congregated on the tip of the spear, as a tyrannical devil might permeated the air. At the same time, the black-robed figure's body was clad in a layer of devilish armor, as a fearsome devilish glow circulated around him. Chaotic art of the heavenly devil. At this moment, a voice drifted over. In the air, a silhouette appeared, clad in robes as white as snow, exuding an icy aura. Her eyes were fixed on the black-robed figure, as shock could be seen flickering in her eyes. "Where did you learn this devil art from?" The black-robed figure glanced at the newcomer, as his gaze wavered. This newcomer actually recognized this devil art. This was indeed the chaotic art of the heavenly devil, one of the 9 ultimate arts of ancient Grand Xiao. It was also the only devil art amongst the 9 ultimate arts. He had cultivated it under a stroke of good fortune, and even had a small accomplishment in it. Yunmengyi. Qin Wentian stared at the silhouette. She actually recognized this devil art. Who was Yunmengyi exactly? Let's deal with him first. Yun Mengyi's gaze landed on Zhan Chen, as a terrifying light flickered in her eyes. She clenched her fists, causing the heavens and earth to be covered in frost. Instantly, a bone-chilling aura enveloped Zhan Chen, causing him to feel as though his body was being sealed in ice. The black-robed figure didn't say anything, he too, dashed towards Zhan Chen. His devilish long spear erupted forth with a terrifying might, causing the entire space to tremble. Devil intent filled the skies as a fearsome devilish might swept towards Zhan Chen. If this strike landed, no one under the Heavenly Dipper realm would be able to retreat unscathed. Yun Mengyi's silhouette was as swift as the wind, as swift as lightning. With her mandate of wind at the perfection boundary of the first level, in terms of speed, there were few in Yuanfu who could compete with her. A terrifying sense of crisis descended, and a terrifying golden light flashed in Zhan Chen's eyes. A blinding light burst forth from his body, and a destructive heaven-punishing might burst forth. Countless golden punishment swords revolved around him, transforming into a resplendent screen of light. Pine! The tyrannical devil spear slammed forth, as Yun Mengyi's fearsome fist light similarly shattered. Zhan Chen's body was flung through the air as he groaned in agony. His gaze swept over to the two of them, the killing intent in his eyes was incomparably intense. He didn't expect to encounter such a situation. Both of them were extremely powerful. The spectators in the distance were all shocked. There were even people who recognized Zhan Chen, causing their hearts to tremble. Both of them were at the peak of Yuanfu, and from the exchange of blows, they could already sense how terrifying the storm would be in store for the ranking battle this time around. Chapter 342. Zhan Chen's golden eyes swept over to Yun Mengyi and the black-robed figure. He knew that it was impossible for him to kill Qin Wentian today. The strength of these two were extraordinary, especially the black-robed figure who cultivated the chaotic art of the heavenly devil. Among the 9 ultimate arts of Grand Xiao, this was the only devil path art, the chaotic art of the heavenly devil. Naturally, Zhan Chen had long heard of it. It was exceedingly difficult to cultivate this art, and the danger level was simply too high. Out of 10 people who cultivated this art, 9 out of 10 would die miserably from the backlash. Only one person could successfully cultivate this art, and if he succeeded, he would become a terrifying devil king. Who would have thought that he would witness it today? I, Zhan Chen, will remember the actions of the two of you. The ranking battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings is just around the corner. Zhan Chen will personally experience the strength of the two of you. As the sound of his voice faded, Zhan Chen stepped on his sword as he soared through the air. The black-robed figure, as well as Yun Mengyi and the rest, didn't pursue him. Zhan Chen's combat prowess wasn't inferior to theirs in the slightest. Even if they could defeat Zhan Chen, they wouldn't be able to kill him. Defeating and killing were two completely different concepts. Unless they had an overwhelming advantage in strength, they wouldn't be able to kill Zhan Chen on the spot. Clearly, they weren't strong enough to kill Zhan Chen on the spot. After the battle ended, Yun Mengyi's gaze landed on the black-robed figure as she coldly asked, "Who are you exactly? How did you obtain the chaotic art of the heavenly devil?" The black-robed man's expression flickered, but his voice was still hoarse as he coldly said, "It has nothing to do with you." As the sound of his voice faded, he turned and prepared to depart. However, he only saw Yun Mengyi stepping out, her movements as swift as the wind. With a wave of her hand, ice and snow descended, covering the entire space in a layer of frost. The black-robed man suddenly turned around and struck out with his demonic spear. The void trembled and the ice and snow shattered. Yun Mengyi's palms trembled. Instantly, the humming of swords filled the air, as though there was a symphony of swords. Boundless sword might converged, and at the instant Yun Mengyi stretched her hand out, sword light cascaded downwards from the heavens. Buzz, as the sword descended, the world was shocked. In that instant, the world lost its color. Currently, Qin Wentian had also seen many supreme swordplay techniques. However, when Yunmengyi's swordplay was unleashed, he couldn't help but feel astonished. This sword technique was breathtaking. The black-robed man's expression was cold. Without any hesitation, the demonic spear stabbed out once more, piercing the opponent's heart. The black-robed man's eyes were as cold as ever, ignoring the sword attack. Yunmengyi's countenance changed. She didn't expect the black-robed man to be so ruthless. If she continued to attack, both of them would die. Soaring through the air, Yunmengyi slashed out with her sword again, borrowing the light of the heavens and earth to slash down from the 9 heavenly layers. This is the heavenly swordplay. Ouyang Guangsheng's heart trembled. As a chosen of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, his talent could be said to be outstanding, and he had seen many things. However, in this short period of time it took for an incense stick to burn, everything that happened before his eyes caused his heart to tremble unceasingly. Zhan Chen's strength was within expectations. After all, he was ranked number 11 on the Heavenly Fate rankings, and that was even before he started cultivating the Heavenly Sovereign's cultivation technique. After that, a mysterious black-robed man appeared. He cultivated the chaotic Heavenly Devil art. After that, Yunmengyi appeared. The sword art she used was actually the heavenly swordplay. This sword art was also one of the 9 ultimate arts of Grand Xiao. And just like the chaotic art of the heavenly devil, it was also an ultimate art that had been lost to time. Even Ouyang Guangsheng could sense that this trip to the ancient kingdom, as well as the ranking battle for the heavenly fate rankings, would bring about an unprecedented storm. Enough. Qin Wentian couldn't help but berate when he saw the two of them fighting in a frenzy. Abruptly, the silhouette of the black-robed man retreated. Yunmengyi hesitated for a moment before sheathing her sword as well. Such a scene caused Ouyang Guangsheng to be dumbfounded. He stared speechlessly at Qin Wentian. Of the two in front of him, one cultivated the chaotic art of the heavenly devil, while the other cultivated the heavenly swordplay. Just a single sentence from Qin Wentian and the two of them actually stopped fighting. One couldn't help but say that such a scene was extremely bizarre. Even Qin Wentian himself couldn't help but be stunned when he saw the might of that roar. His eyes gleamed with sharpness. He still couldn't guess Yunmengyi's identity. But this black-robed figure appeared out of nowhere and intercepted Zhan Chen. Could it be that he was really here to help him? "You recognize me?" Qin Wentian stared at the black-robed man as he asked. The black-robed man's deep eyes swept over to Qin Wentian as devilish qi permeated the air. Abruptly, he turned and walked away, leaving just like that. Yunmengyi wanted to chase after him, yet Qin Wentian interjected, "Stop right there." Yunmengyi halted her steps as she stared at Qin Wentian, only to see Qin Wentian asking, "Who are you exactly? Why are you following me?" Cold eyes swept over to Qin Wentian before Yunmengyi departed, causing Qin Wentian to awkwardly stand there as he shrugged his shoulders at Ouyang Guangsheng. He couldn't see through these two at all. "Let's return." Ouyang Guangsheng spoke as the two of them departed together. Very swiftly, the news of the earlier battle circulated around. However, the main character of the incident, Qin Wentian, was marginalized. Nobody paid attention to him, but the news of the chaotic art of the heavenly devil had caused quite a commotion. Other than that, there was also a rumor stating that the sword technique used by the ice-cold maiden was the heavenly swordplay. As Qin Wentian returned to his residence, he couldn't help but to discuss the matters of Chu with Luo Huan. He didn't know how the Emperor Star Academy was doing, and that there were still his loved ones in the Sky Harmony City. However, Luo Huan didn't know much. She only knew that Chu Wuwei was trying his best to revive the Emperor Star Academy, and wanted to strengthen the Chu country. After their conversation, Qin Wentian returned to his own courtyard. The night sky was as dark as ink, and within his courtyard, Qin Wentian sat cross-legged. The matters of today had stirred up his heart. Mo Qingqing was safe and sound, which naturally caused him to heave a sigh of relief in his heart. Seeing her safe and sound, Qin Wentian was also at ease. However, Zhang Chen's current strength made her feel threatened. Not only that, in the battle today, Zhang Chen definitely hadn't used all of his trump cards. Yun Mengyi and the mysterious black-robed figure were both exceedingly powerful. Not to mention Yang Fan from the Star-Seizing Manor and Hua Feng from the Hua clan. His goal this time around was to become one of the top 3 rankers in the Heavenly Fate rankings. Many Yuan meteor stones appeared in Qin Wentian's palms, as he prepared to use them for his cultivation. The Heavenly Fate rankings was no longer the same as before. Back then, he could easily defeat opponents 2 levels higher than him. But now, he didn't have absolute confidence that he would be able to win against the most outstanding characters of the Heavenly Fate rankings. Hence, he had to cultivate some powerful techniques first. The heaven-breaking finger left behind by the Gold Element Ascendant was extremely powerful, but its consumption of Yuan meteor stones was exceedingly high. Other than the 81 stances of the demonic art, he still needed some other powerful innate techniques as his trump cards. And now, in his memories, there was an extremely powerful innate technique. The tiny astral being was left behind by his old fogey father, and had always been Qin Wentian's greatest secret. In these 2 years, he had expended a considerable amount of Yuan meteor stones to stimulate the memories of many of his old fogey father's memories. Other than that, he had also obtained an extremely powerful innate technique. This technique was known as the Heartbreak Ancient Clock. Heartbreak, as the name suggested, was able to destroy the heart. This technique could only be activated by condensing divine energy from the ancient clock, and was exceedingly difficult to cultivate. This ancient clock was originally a 3rd-rank divine inscription. Qin Wentian had always been cultivating this innate technique, and today, he had finally completed the most important step. In that instant, he was already able to condense the divine inscriptions on the ancient clock, ensuring that he could unleash this technique as he pleased. There was another reason why this technique was so difficult. It required the aid of the rhythm of one's heart, and was exceedingly profound. Luckily, Qin Wentian had awakened the heart candle flame. He guessed that it was precisely because of this that his old fogey father was able to cultivate such a powerful and mysterious innate technique. Qin Wentian's eyes were tightly shut, yet within his body, the heart candle flame was still quietly burning. Qin Wentian attempted to connect the heart candle flame with his divine energy, as though it was fusing with his body. This process was also exceedingly difficult. In the blink of an eye, it was already deep into the night. In the courtyard, rustling sounds rang out, causing Qin Wentian to frown. Abruptly, Qin Wentian roared as he blasted out with his palms. Instantly, divine energy erupted forth as an illusory ancient clock appeared in the air. Yun Mengyi was leisurely strolling about when she suddenly felt her heart pounding. Her beautiful eyes instantly froze, and upon seeing the ancient clock in front of her, she grabbed out with her palms. Boom! The sound of the bell reverberated through the air. Yun Mengyi groaned in agony as her heart pounded violently, as though someone was stabbing it with a sword. Her beautiful eyes opened as she stared at Qin Wentian. What kind of innate technique was this? It was actually so unfathomable. What are you doing here? Qin Wentian opened his eyes, staring at Yun Mengyi as he asked. Cold Yun Mengyi's countenance, she stared at Qin Wentian as she asked, what innate technique is this? Heartbreak Ancient Clock, Qin Wentian calmly replied. Heartbreak, it's very powerful. Yun Mengyi continued, if your cultivation base broke through to the 8th level of Yuanfu, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to withstand the continuous reverberations of the ancient clock. Qin Wentian didn't say anything, he only stared at Yun Mengyi. Now that it was night time, why would Yun Mengyi come to his residence? Although I'm not a beauty capable of toppling empires, I'm still considered a beauty. Why do you dislike me so much? Yun Mengyi couldn't help but ask when she saw the coldness in Qin Wentian's eyes. Qin Wentian was somewhat bewildered, he didn't expect Yun Mengyi to say such a thing. This doesn't seem like the you I knew before. Qin Wentian's voice was as cold as ever. Before this, I was only pretending to be cold. If you like me, I'm willing to give up everything for you. A gentle smile abruptly appeared on Yunmengyi's face. She slowly walked towards Qin Wentian, placing her hands on her shoulders as she took off her white robes. Momentarily, her fragrant shoulders were revealed, as well as her sexy collarbones. Qin Wentian furrowed his brows. This Yunmengyi was becoming more and more abnormal. What do you want exactly? Qin Wentian coldly asked. Yunmengyi allowed her white robe to fall to the ground. Her alluring figure actually moved to the side of Qin Wentian, softly leaning on Qin Wentian's shoulder as she asked, "Are you not moved by me at all?" Qin Wentian turned, placing his hands on Yunmengyi's soft and supple shoulders. He could feel the coldness of Yunmengyi's skin as he shifted his gaze downwards, staring at that alluring spot. Yunmengyi's countenance changed. Humph! Qin Wentian waved his hands as the white robe flew over. He draped it over Yunmengyi's shoulders as he coldly stated, "If there's nothing else, don't disturb my cultivation." Yunmengyi's countenance changed. After which, she stood up and flicked her sleeves. It was unknown if she was blaming Qin Wentian for being so insensitive. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.